At exactly 8 o'clock in the evening, breaking news interrupted and cut off the broadcast to announce a shocking piece of information and news that shook and rattled the entire region and area. The television broadcasted and transmitted the tragic news, stating and declaring the death of the S-class mage, whose name was Lee Seo-jun, in the line of duty while performing his responsibilities. Lee Seo-jun had been fighting and battling an evil dragon that suddenly appeared and materialized in the center of Seoul, and he met his demise and end while attempting and trying to suppress and defeat the monster known and called as Cruis. This young mage, 25 years of age, had begun and started his career back in the year 2034, and was beloved and adored by the public for resolving and solving countless incidents and problems, prompting and causing the country to announce the erection and construction of memorials for him everywhere throughout the land. While the public was drowning and sinking in deep shock upon hearing and learning the news of his death and passing, a young man sat alone and by himself in a dark room in front of the screen and turned off and shut down the TV with a trembling and shaking hand. The young man appeared and seemed to be in a state of disbelief and denial, muttering and whispering that what was happening and occurring made absolutely no sense whatsoever. His body collapsed and fell onto the sofa in weakness and exhaustion, as he wondered and questioned how the story's protagonist and main character could die at this particular stage of events. Horror was painted and written on his face as he tried to convince and persuade himself that it was just a lie and falsehood. He recalled and remembered the image of Lee Seo-jun, whose death had just been announced and declared, that genius mage who carved and cut his way through battles and fights, and the young hero whom all eyes had been watching and observing throughout that entire era and time period. However, the most important truth dominating and controlling the young man's thoughts is that his former classmate is the protagonist and main character of the novel, The Modern Wizard. That novel which forms and creates the foundation upon which this entire world was built and constructed. He believed and thought that if things went and proceeded according to the original plot and storyline, there would be a happy ending and conclusion, and he would be able to return and go back to his real world and reality. But the appearance and emergence of the Dark Dragon and the death and demise of the protagonist changed and altered everything completely. The young man wondered and questioned in astonishment and fear about the reason and cause that led to the protagonist's death at this particular timing and moment, and anxiety began to seep and flow into him regarding his upcoming fate and future, as his hopes of seeing and meeting his friends again after the novel's end faded and disappeared away. His memory returned and traveled to an old scene in a crowded bar filled with people, when his friend posed and asked a hypothetical question. If one were to reincarnate and be reborn as an extra character in a novel, would they monopolize and take all the hidden benefits and advantages for themselves? Opinions were divided and split back then during that time, as one girl asserted and claimed she would do so without a doubt or hesitation. But Kim Sun-woo had a different opinion and viewpoint, as he rejected and dismissed the idea completely and totally, describing and calling it madness and insanity. He justified and explained his stance by saying and stating that interfering without reason or purpose might lead to death at the hands of the protagonist, meaning and signifying an immediate game over and end. He added and mentioned that he wasn't confident or sure in his ability to endure and withstand the hardships and diligence the protagonist exerts and displays, a point in argument his friends agreed with despite their sarcastic manner and attitude. Everyone raised and lifted their glasses to toast his realistic yet annoying words and statements. At that exact moment, his phone vibrated and buzzed in his pocket. He took it out and pulled it to see a notification that he had won and succeeded in an event, which surprised and shocked his friend. The message was from the novel's author and writer, congratulating and praising him and offering him a ticket to a very special place and location, with the option and choice to accept or decline the offer. His friends got excited and enthusiastic, thinking and believing it was a tourist trip and vacation, and considered and viewed it as a stroke of great luck and fortune for him. And while he was wondering and questioning if the destination was overseas and international, he pressed and tapped the accept button with his finger. And that was exactly how it happened 7 years ago in the past, when he suddenly fell and dropped into a magic circle, finding himself transported and moved inside the novel he loved reading and enjoying, the novel called The Modern Wizard. The young man sat clutching and holding his head in confusion and pain, unable to believe and accept how the story's events and occurrences had twisted and changed in such a sudden and unexpected manner. He had always been careful and cautious not to change or alter the original course of events and happenings, So he settled and decided for staying outside the main story and observing and watching it from afar and a distance to ensure and guarantee the integrity and accuracy of the plot. While he was drowning and sinking in his thoughts and contemplations, the TV screen in front of him began to distort and warp and emit strange sparks and flashes, which aroused and sparked his intense astonishment and surprise. He stood up and rose from his place and position, wondering and questioning about the reason and cause for this sudden malfunction at this specific timing and moment. He barely finished his question and inquiry when the glass cracked and broke and a bright light emitted and shone. He screamed and yelled in terror and fear as he saw and witnessed reality cracking and breaking around him. His eyes widened and expanded in shock as his body began to fade and disappear amidst the light and brightness. And outside in the world, the scene was horrifying and terrifying as people in buildings began to decompose and break down into shards and fragments of light as if the entire world was collapsing and falling apart. The young man screamed and shouted at the top of his lungs and voice, wondering and questioning why this disaster and catastrophe was happening and occurring. Red system windows appeared and materialized before him, announcing and declaring the devastating news and information. Lee Seo-jun has died and perished. Therefore and consequently, all main scenarios are considered and deemed failed and unsuccessful. And due to the impossibility and inability of completing and finishing the story, the system announced and declared the start and beginning of a world reset, amidst the astonishment and confusion of the young man who could not comprehend and understand what he was reading and viewing. In moments and seconds, the world around him shattered and broke like a broken mirror and glass, and his consciousness faded and vanished amidst the scattered and dispersed fragments. Suddenly and abruptly, a sharp voice pierced and cut through the silence of the darkness, asking and requesting him to wake up because he had arrived and reached at the academy and school. He opened his eyes to find and discover himself inside a bus and vehicle, with the driver shouting and yelling at him impatiently because he was late getting off despite their arrival some time ago earlier. He jumped and leaped from his seat, apologizing in confusion and bewilderment. Having been stopped and caught by the word student, the driver had just called and addressed him. He got off and exited hurriedly, while in a state of utter and complete confusion, for he was certain and sure he was in his room moments ago. So how did he wake up suddenly and unexpectedly on a bus and vehicle? He looked and glanced at his shoes and feet as he walked and moved, recalling and remembering the feeling of the world collapsing and breaking he had just experienced and witnessed, wondering and questioning if it was all just a dream and illusion. Otherwise, what is the explanation and answer for what is happening and occurring? He raised and lifted his hand to block and shield the bright sunlight that greeted and met him immediately upon descending and getting off, only to see and observe before him a huge building decorated and adorned with banners welcoming and greeting students to the entrance ceremony of Korea Magic Academy for the year 2032, the place and location he had previously graduated from in the past. He froze and stopped in place with shock written and displayed on his face, for the year 2032 was 7 whole years ago in the past. He looked and examined at his clothes and body in disbelief and denial, finding and discovering himself wearing and donning the school uniform and outfit. He contemplated and studied his hands in astonishment and surprise, and the crazy truth began to seep and sink into his mind that he had returned and traveled 7 years into the past in history. Inside the grand hall and auditorium, loudspeakers blared and announced, welcoming everyone, and asking and requesting students to take their places and positions to begin and start the ceremony and event. He pushed his way through the crowd, head spinning, barely holding it together with how weird everything was getting. It honestly felt like he was about to lose it right there. He scanned the place, checking both sides. Everything lined up perfectly with how things went down 7 years back. That's when it hit him. He couldn't deny it anymore. He knew for sure he'd gone back in time. He was trying to process everything when one question just wouldn't leave his head. Why does Lee Seo-jun end up dead in the future? In the story he remembered, it never made sense for him to die in that fight. Everything was playing out just like it was supposed to. Cruz the Dragon showed up, started wrecking everything, and the main guy was meant to handle it after a tough battle. He suddenly looked way more serious, his eyes narrowing like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Deep down, he just knew there had to be something else going on with how the main guy died, like the story was leaving out a big piece on purpose. He dropped into a seat right in the middle of the hall, totally drained. Sitting there, he mumbled to himself, stuck on the fact that he had no clue what was going on. Kim Sun-woo sat right in the middle of the hall, totally zoned out, running through what could go wrong if Lee Seo-jun didn't make it this time too. He knew things could get real messy if that happened again. He kept thinking about whether he'd get thrown back to the past again, or if this time everything would just straight up end. He realized one thing for sure, no matter what, Lee Seo-jun couldn't go down. He tightened his fist, locked in on what he had to do. If he wanted any shot at getting back to where he came from, he knew it was time to actually make some moves that mattered. He kept his eyes on Lee Seo-jun up front, locked in on making sure nothing happened to him, no matter what it took. He needed to make it to the end of the story, so he got started on his plan right away. He wanted to get in with the main crew, so he gave a little wave to the girl next to him and hit her with a solid, easy smile. Everyone at school knew her, Yuara, the girl holding down the number 2 spot in the whole second-year class. She gave him a hard stare, sizing him up like he was a stranger sliding into her DMs, trying to figure out if he even recognized who she was. He kept talking under his breath about what he thought of his behavior, acting like he totally knew her, even though they'd barely even spoken before. Kim Sun-woo got thrown off by how direct she was. When she asked if he wanted to say something, he just shook his head and kind of stumbled over his words. She got annoyed, turning her head so he couldn't see her face. His staring was really getting to her, so she told him to look somewhere else. He gave a shaky smile and swiped the sweat off his forehead, already knowing getting in with these top guys was going to be way tougher than he thought. Right when he was deep in thought, the announcement came on telling all the class reps to head up to the stage. 3 students stepped forward while everyone in the crowd quietly watched, clearly impressed. Everyone was staring at Lee Seo-jun, who was holding down that top spot in the second year. People couldn't stop talking about how he just had this crazy presence, especially since he trained straight under Chairman Kim Jin-chul. Lee Seo-jun was already pretty well known even though he was still in school. Everyone talked about him because The Modern Wizard, this hit novel, was all about a hero with insane powers who just handled everything solo. The best-looking girl from the freshman class showed up, turning heads with how good she looked. Kim Sun-woo picked up right away that her smile wasn't just for show. With everything he'd seen before, he could tell she was all about steering things her way and staying in control. The third student was the senator, the guy who'd been ranked number 1 for 3 years straight, but honestly, he just looked like a regular dude. Kim Sun-woo realized he barely knew anything about this guy, since he was barely even around in the original story. The 3 of them got up, ready to do the student oath. Kim Sun-woo could tell his nerves were getting worse the second he caught Yuara staring hard at the platform, her eyes basically on fire. He saw a chance to get on her good side, so he made sure everyone could hear him say how it was honestly a shame. She looked right at him, eyes lit up and intense, basically checking if he was talking about her. He nodded, so she shot back, all sarcastic, asking what exactly he thought was so sad about it. He looked over at the platform and, not holding back, let her know he truly thought she outclassed the 2 up there. She shot him this icy stare, then started making fun of him, acting like he was clueless. She basically questioned if he even knew what he was talking about, and wondered if he'd ever actually seen them use magic. He stepped back, clearly freaked out, shaking his head like he wanted nothing to do with it. She didn't let it slide, calling him out for talking about stuff he had no clue about. He just looked her straight in the eyes and stayed totally chill, telling her he could tell just by looking. That totally threw her off. Kim Sun-woo threw on his usual confident grin as he tried to impress Yu Era. He was totally locked in, acting like his gut instinct was always on point and never let him down. She totally threw him off by giving him a dirty look, clearly annoyed, and grilled him about whether he was making fun of her. Instead of backing down, he just messed around and denied it, making things even more tense between them. She let out a sigh, clearly not having it, and looked away from him. That's when he picked up that what he was doing wasn't landing, so he switched gears and brought up something else, hoping it'd work better. Out of nowhere, he brought up her career, and it totally caught her off guard. She felt this chill run through her, wondering in her head how he even knew what's been on her mind lately. She glanced at his chest and spotted the name tag Kim Sun-woo. Out of nowhere, her eyes lit up this eerie red, and she let him know straight up that she remembered who he was. She made it clear, though, he shouldn't even think about talking to her again. Kim Sun-woo just froze, totally embarrassed. He smacked his hands together, thinking about how his whole plan to get in with the important people had already flopped hard. The new semester kicked off with the placement test. It was like this big opening event where everyone showed up, and students had to put their real skills out there for the whole school to see. The students were all on edge, nerves running high. One guy was seriously freaking out, thinking he didn't stand a chance next to everyone else's skills. Meanwhile, his friend tried to chill him out, hoping he'd relax a bit. Kim Sun-woo just chilled in the back, watching everyone with his confident grin. He saw the others like they were just kids messing around. Meanwhile, he already had his eyes locked on the prize cracking the top 10 in his second year. He felt pretty confident, mostly because in his last life he got offers to move up to B class. So, just showing up and being average in front of these students wasn't really an option for him. His pride couldn't take that. Yu Ara spotted that weird grin on his face and started thinking about what was up with him, while Kim Sun-woo got ready to show off what he could really do in front of the crowd. The show kicked off when the first-year girl stepped up and let her magic fly. She was all about speed and power, and everyone could tell she wasn't holding back. He went all out on the training dummies, smashing them so hard they basically disappeared. Everyone at school couldn't believe how good she was. Her skills were just on another level for someone her age. The guys kept talking about how insane her talent was, almost like she was built different. When it was time for the second years to show their stuff, Yu-Ara stepped up without hesitation. She looked totally locked in, and as she moved forward, she just casually sparked a fireball in her hand like it was nothing. She let loose a huge burst of fire that wiped out the target right away, with debris and flames going everywhere. Everyone in the crowd stopped what they were doing, completely stunned and honestly impressed, trying to figure out if she was really their age or not. Everyone knew Yu-Ara was pretty much a legend at school, but no matter what she did, Lee Seo-jun was always the one everyone talked about. His presence kind of made it hard for her to stand out, even though she was seriously impressive on her own. Lee Seo-jun moved up and pulled out his sword so fast, the light off the blade was wild. He darted between the dummies, ripping them apart with sharp moves and crazy accuracy. All the dummies dropped at the same time, breaking apart while the students started cheering and just staring, amazed at what happened. Kim Sun-woo glanced over at Yu-Ara. Even though she just crushed it, he could tell she was still annoyed and kinda jealous. He figured out that she always seemed stressed because Lee Seo-jun kept taking first place from her. Seo-jun was basically on pro mage level, so no matter how hard she tried, she could never beat him. The whole thing just got under her skin nonstop. The teacher finally called up Kim Sun-woo, that second-year dude from Class A. He jumped up from his seat, grinning wide, looking pumped that it was finally his shot. Nobody at school really remembered who he was, not even the teachers. His own homeroom teacher barely recognized him since he kept such a low profile last year. One of the teachers checked his records and realized he was actually good at reinforcement magic. Still, she couldn't believe he showed up with nothing. No weapon at all to use his skills on. Most teachers figured he probably switched over to manifestation magic, since that's something students do sometimes. Meanwhile, Kim Sun-woo just stood there in front of the training dummies, not flinching at all. He started charging up some blue energy in his hand, while the teacher just stood there, looking disappointed and kind of ranting about how students always pick what they think is cool, instead of actually getting good at something. The teacher was talking about how he just looked like a regular guy, and her coworker nodded along. But then, she caught something off about the student that made her pause. Out of nowhere, energy started building up in his hand, spinning way faster than anyone expected. It made people wonder if he was actually pulling off that compressed manifestation move. This is just the starting level of manifestation magic, but pulling it off isn't easy. To get ready for the next step, called release, he has to really lock in and use some advanced moves to squeeze all that mana tight so he can control it better later. This move was something only the top-tier mages ever tried, so when it happened, the whole vibe felt totally new. Yu-Ara just froze, her face totally stunned. Even Lee Seo-jun looked like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The teacher stared, totally caught off guard that a second year could pull off something this advanced. A blast of blue energy shot out, cutting through the air and slamming into the targets right in front of him. Everyone, students and teachers, just stood there glued to the spot, completely locked in on the training dummies. But out of nowhere, instead of some huge blast, the magic just fizzled out with this weird little noise. The whole class lost it, laughing at him. They figured he just ran out of steam and couldn't even finish the move, so they started clowning on him, wondering what the whole point was if he couldn't even pull it off. Kim Sun-woo just stood there, totally embarrassed, thinking he was finished. Out of nowhere, these blue windows popped up right in front of him. He kept seeing windows pop up everywhere, and he couldn't believe what was going on. He freaked out inside, trying to figure out why the system decided to pop up right now. Later, he was chilling in his room, finally able to breathe easy. The way the window opened right then totally caught him off guard. Back in his last life, the system showed up way later, so now he was really curious why it popped up early this time. He started thinking back to when he took the test, remembering how those messages just popped up in front of him. The system dropped a notification that interloper perks were now live and everything was running at full power. When the main scenario kicked off, he got the second round of life achievement and scored 3,000 points as a reward. Next up, he got this weird achievement called Clown Talent, and out of nowhere, his points jumped up by 5,000. While he was ducking out, dodging all the students making fun of him, the system hit him up saying 232 people now recognized his face. That bumped his score up by another 1,000 points. Lee Seo-jun started to pay attention to him too, just like 4 of the other main characters had. That boosted his points by another 3,000. He crashed onto his bed, still trying to process that he'd racked up 10,000 points so fast. That's when it hit him. If he wanted to actually use those points, he'd have to unlock some interloper benefits first. He gets these perks because he's the only one who got dropped into this world with someone else's body. The achievement system kicked in just for him, so now he can pull up info on anything through these pop-up windows. He racks up points every time he pulls off something new. He also levels up through the fame system whenever more people start to recognize him. He's all about the point shop. He loves that it lets him pick up new skills, traits, and gear, and honestly, he thinks the whole setup is kind of busted-like, way too strong to be fair. Even though he was hyped about getting the points, he couldn't help but get annoyed at the title Clown Talent. He pictured himself stuck in clown gear while everyone at school just laughed at him. He suddenly remembered why his magic flopped so hard back then. He just didn't have enough mana at the time, and that's why everything fell apart and left him looking dumb. This was the first time he ever got noticed like this in both of his lives. He even scored some points, even though he still wasn't really sold on being called a clown. He wanted to see how strong he was now, so he pulled up his status window. When the window popped up with his name and points, he couldn't believe how weak his stats were. Health was sitting at 42, strength barely at 34, and mana was just 21. He totally freaked, trying to figure out what happened to everything he'd built up before. That's when it hit him. His stats had been wiped clean. Kim Sun-woo just lost it, shaking and crushed, stuck on the thought of how long it'd take to grind his stats back up after they totally reset to 0. He froze for a second, eyes lighting up, finally realizing he's got a shot to reset his points and level up however he wants in this new life. He thought back to the 4 main types of magic in his world: reinforcement, manifestation, support, and summoning. Reinforcement magic was all about powering up your body or weapons for close-up fights. Manifestation magic is the usual kind where you cast spells and let them do their thing. When it comes to summoning and support, they're all about calling out creatures to help and backing everyone up with magic. Sun Woo picked manifestation as his thing just because it looked awesome when people used it. He couldn't help but laugh at himself for choosing it just because it looked cool. He picked this lane, so he went all in on boosting his mana stat first. Out of nowhere, the system popped up and let him know that now 350 people could recognize him. Just like that, he scored 1,000 points as a reward. He noticed his eyes getting bigger, trying to figure out how the number shot up by 50 people so fast. He figured out that acting like a clown during the test was exactly why he was suddenly blowing up. His points kept going up, and honestly, he thought that was a win. He gave a quick thumbs up, clearly hyped about how things were turning out. He was still talking when a pop-up suddenly showed up 400 people in, and he just scored 2,000 points. That caught him off guard. It didn't make sense how more people than his whole school even knew who he was. He grabbed his phone and pulled up the app to join the Great Sage Forest group that only people from the academy could get into. There he saw what was blowing up. A video called Crazy S-Class Mage Scandal was everywhere, and the comment section was just roasting him, calling him corrupt and saying he bribed his way into the academy. He got a little embarrassed reading those comments, but scoring an extra 5,000 points had him grinning. Sun Woo really wanted more people to jump in and watch the video so he could rack up more points. He locked his eyes on the phone, totally zoned in, already thinking about how he could use those points to finally grab the item he really wanted. The next day, he walked into the academy and everyone instantly knew who he was. Students started whispering as soon as they saw him. Pretty much everyone remembered the guy from that viral video. He wasn't worried about how they looked. Instead, he kept hoping they'd keep the conversation going in his head. When he saw the views had already passed 500, he realized staying up all night and pushing through the cringe actually paid off. Even though he still remembered people online calling him sick and weak, he couldn't help but burst out laughing. All those insults just scored him another 5,000 points, and honestly, that win hit different. He pushed open the classroom door and everything just went quiet for a second. Then, people started whispering his name all over again. Out of nowhere, one of the students called him out, pointing straight at him and breaking up the whole vibe in the room. The blonde student walked up and threw his arm over his shoulder, not in a friendly way. He started making fun of how he acted yesterday, bringing up how everyone was laughing at him. His friends were cracking up behind him when another guy threw some shade, asking how he burned through his mana so quick, low-key suggesting his family must have slipped some cash to get him into the academy. Sun Woo spotted the guy right away. It was Park In-hwan, the dude who showed up early in the story as the bully and total loose cannon. Sun Woo could already tell this guy was nothing but trouble, and honestly, he didn't want any part of it. He just kept his distance, acting like he didn't even notice him. Park and Won weren't about to let him off easy. Park grabbed his shoulder even harder, pulled him in close, and just stared him down. That's when they started calling him Troublemaker. From then on, every time Park called him Suki, he had to show up right away. Otherwise, Park made it clear his school life was going to get rough. Right before things could get out of hand, someone with a steady voice stepped in, telling Park and Won to chill. Everyone turned their heads and saw Lee Seo-jun posted up, looking serious. He was calling out the bully, making it clear this wasn't the first time he'd told him to quit messing with people. Park and Won pulled back, both clearly annoyed, throwing some shade at the so-called genius, acting like a hero. They didn't bother hiding how they felt, tossing out sarcastic comments about guys like them just having to follow orders and keep their heads down. Park and Won shot his opponent a cold stare that pretty much said, "Don't mess with us." He told his crew it was time to bounce, and just like that, they did, leaving the whole place on edge. Everyone in the hallway was talking quietly, glancing around. Lee Seo-jun looked over at Kim Sun-woo, checking to see if he was alright. Sun-woo just gave a quick reply and nodded, letting him know he appreciated it. Lee Seo-jun kept talking, trying to make sure it was really Sun-woo. He brought up that viral video from yesterday that everyone had seen. Sun-woo let out a nervous laugh, totally thrown off but trying to play it cool like nothing was up. Deep down, he was seriously embarrassed, already thinking about how he'd deal with everyone knowing once the video blew up everywhere. Lee Seo-jun saw that he was stressing out and let him know he didn't have to overthink it. He made it clear the real problem was the messed up person who posted the video, not him. Lee Seo-jun was just about to head out when Sun-woo called out to him and made him pause. Sun-woo looked dead serious and totally caught the hero off guard by asking him to join his squad. Sun-woo's eyes lit up. He realized this was his shot to team up with the hero everyone talked about in the first class of the semester. Lee Seo-jun's face said it all. He looked straight up surprised and not really into it, like he couldn't believe the guy actually picked him. Sun-woo walked up to him, grinning like he knew something nobody else did. He leaned in close and let him know this team-up was going to work out for Lee Seo-jun too. Lee Seo-jun paused for a sec, hand on his chin, trying to figure out what was even going on with this weird offer. He quickly put his hand up, gave an awkward smile, and made it clear he'd never actually thought of him as a teammate. Sun-woo didn't back down after getting turned down. He jumped right in, saying he actually had 2 solid reasons why Lee Seo-jun needed to team up with him. That caught the hero's attention, and he wanted to know what those reasons were. Lee Seo-jun cracked a small smile and figured he'd let the guy talk it out. Sun-woo just pointed his finger up, totally chill, and laid out why he always ends up dead last in the whole second-year crew. Lee Seo-jun let out a dry laugh, clearly not buying that this was a solid reason to team up. Sun-woo broke it down, saying there's this point system in the joint tests. If the guy at the top teams up with the one at the bottom, their squad's total points just go up on their own. Lee Seo-jun got what they were saying, but he still thought it was way too risky for him. Sun-woo brought up his second point, making it clear that Yu A-ra, his main competitor, had already picked out 2 students for her crew who weren't exactly top of the class. He pointed out that Yu A-ra's got some serious skills with big attack spells, so she can pretty much carry the squad, even if 2 teammates aren't that strong. Lee Seo-jun was totally on board with that. Out of nowhere, Sun-woo held up 3 fingers. Lee Seo-jun froze for a second, realizing Sun-woo had only mentioned 2 reasons before. Sun-woo grinned and jabbed his thumb at his chest, showing he was actually pretty talented even though he was stuck at the bottom. Lee Seo-jun couldn't hold it in and started laughing, realizing that Sun-woo was actually pretty hilarious and fun to be around. Lee Seo-jun was all in on teaming up with him, totally down for it. Meanwhile, Sun-woo was hyped inside, pumped that his plan was actually working. Lee Seo-jun quickly caught himself and explained he had something going on, which just made Kim Sun-woo look confused all over again. The hero grabbed Kim Sun-woo's hand, gave it a solid shake, and made it clear that Sun-woo would be picking who joins the team next. He checked if Sun-woo was cool with that plan. Suddenly, a system pop-up showed up saying Lee Seo-jun was seriously interested in Sun-woo. Seo-jun just scored a 2,000-point boost, and Sun-woo was cool with the deal. The story jumps over to the lecture hall. The teacher starts talking about where magic artifacts first showed up, way back in the 1300s, and goes on about how things work differently compared to the 4 systems everyone knows now. She turned to the class and asked why that strict 2-sided system fell apart back in the day. Kim Sun-woo threw his hand up, totally confident, right in the middle of the hall. He looked like he was locked in and ready to tackle whatever tough question the teacher had lined up. He started rattling off the facts like he'd studied this forever, saying Hogeum was the first reinforcement-type mage to show up in the 18th century. Back then, all the medieval mages thought manifestation magic was unbeatable, so Hogeum showing up threw them for a loop. After that, everyone got obsessed with researching reinforcement magic. The teacher was definitely impressed and gave him props for nailing the answer. Sun-woo just sat there, lost in his thoughts, realizing that even someone like Lee Seo-jun, who's a total genius, finds all those old-school magic theories and tough formulas pretty hard. For him, things just hit different because he's got this interloper advantage. Whenever he studies, all the info pops up for him and even breaks down the text, so he barely has to try. He knew he was on top when it came to written tests. No one else even came close, and he couldn't help but grin while jotting down his notes, totally locked in. Everyone in the back noticed how good he was, and some students started making jokes calling him Hermione because he always crushed the smart stuff. They didn't get why he put in so much effort and kept dropping all that theory, especially since he always ended up dead last when it came to anything hands-on. Sun-woo caught the guys talking trash under their breath, and it got to him. He was annoyed and pretty much wished they'd just say it out loud if they had something to prove instead of hiding behind quiet whispers. Class finally wrapped up, and as soon as the teacher said it was lunchtime, everyone basically bolted out of the hall. Sun-woo was just walking by himself when suddenly someone called out his name. He spun around, caught off guard. Lee Seo-jun walked up grinning and signaled for him to join for lunch. They were celebrating becoming teammates, and Seo-jun looked pretty pumped about it. He was in the cafeteria, weaving through the packed crowd, just trying to spot an open table. From across the way, another student spotted Lee Seo-jun and started waving like crazy, trying to get him to come over and hang out. Shin Young-jun was the guy everyone knew, not just some random, but one of the main dudes in the story and the protagonist's go-to friend. Young Jun was chilling, cracking jokes about his buddy showing up late, when he suddenly realized Sun Woo had rolled in with him. Sun Woo figured Lee Seo-jun split off from his regular crew since teaming up with top-ranked players actually drops your squad's points. Pretty soon, Young Jun realized who Sun Woo was and started pointing at him, surprised that the dude behind the viral video everyone's been watching was right there. Sun Woo just gave this kind of awkward, shy smile, and that basically confirmed it. Young Jun wanted to know how those two ended up tight, so Lee Seo-jun just said they clicked and decided to hit up the dungeon together in a couple days. Young Jun looked totally lost, like he had no idea what was going on. He leaned in close to Lee Seo-jun and quietly asked if he really thought he could take first place without the extra boost he usually gets when teaming up with the guy in last. He was honestly curious why Seo-jun was making things tougher for himself. Lee Seo-jun's face switched up. He got serious real quick. He let everyone know that Ue-ra's coming in heavy this time and isn't messing around about winning. Young Jun couldn't believe it when he found out Ue-ra had already picked up 2 students from the bottom of the ranks for her team just to stack up some extra points. The 3 of them sat down to eat. Sun Woo just focused on his food, acting like nothing weird was going on. Lee Seo-jun, on the other hand, was thinking about how Ue-ra always had that intense attitude. While Sun Woo and his friends sat at their table, a really pretty student walked by. She stopped on the spot when she saw Sun Woo, realizing he was the guy from that viral video in Great Sage Forest. Seo-yun-ah's friend noticed her staring and wanted to know what had her attention. That threw Seo-yun-ah off, and she got kinda lost for a second. She brushed it off right away, throwing on a fake smile and acting like it was no big deal. The second her friend looked away, Seo-yun-ah's whole vibe switched up. Her eyes went sharp, and you could tell she was secretly trying to figure out how this person got close to Lee Seo-jun. The story moved over to the training hall, where all the students were busy practicing their magic skills. Sun Woo stood by himself, zoning in hard. He knew he had to get it right this time, so he zeroed in on his mana, trying to keep it steady and locked in. He wanted to nail both the manifestation and release without messing up again. He locked in, pulling blue energy into his hand, keeping his focus sharp. Then he let it fly, firing off a clean magic shot that stayed steady as it launched. He nailed the target this time. People in the hall started talking, kinda surprised that Kim Sun-woo actually did way better than they all thought he would. Turns out, he wasn't as bad as everyone expected. He actually pulled it off pretty well. Sun-woo swiped sweat off his forehead, cracking a sarcastic grin to himself. He knew he could hear every comment loud and clear, even if he tried to play it cool. He started thinking back to how he did things in his last life. When it came to using his points, he'd just straight up spend them on stats without giving it much thought. He soon realized that every time he bought basic stats 10 times, the price jumped by 10 points. Kind of like how games get way harder to level up the higher you go. So, trying to keep buying stats got super expensive real fast. He figured out that just spending cash to boost his stats wasn't going to work forever, so he started looking for traits or gear that could help him slowly build up his mana over time. He pulled up the point shop and started scrolling through typing in mana to see what would pop up. He kept digging through the list, trying to find that one trait he remembered showing up halfway through the original novel. He scrolled through all the options until he spotted what he'd been searching for, Nature's Protection, Grade A. This trait let him soak up mana from the natural world without even trying, plus it had a special move, Nature's Blessing, that could boost how much mana he got by up to 150%, depending on where he was. The price tag was crazy high at 50,000 points, but he didn't even think twice. With a boost like that, leveling up his mana would be way faster, so he locked it in right away. He wasn't done yet. He went ahead and grabbed the Returner's Watch, Grade B, the kind that boosts your health and mana regen by 200%. He needed a lot of points to buy this expensive stuff, so he ended up selling that top-tier cooking trait he got in his life. Even though he kind of wished he could keep it, he was sure putting the points into these upgrades was the right move. With nature having his back and the Returner's Watch on his wrist, he got a serious head start this time around, way quicker than before he reset everything. His phone buzzed out of nowhere, snapping him out of whatever he was thinking. Nobody really calls him, so it caught him off guard. He grabbed his phone and saw an invite to this chat called Group 3. Inside were names he recognized: Jung Jintai, Lee Seo-jun, Yoon Ha-young, and Shin Ji-hook. Sun-woo stared at the list, kinda lost, since the only name he recognized was Yoon Ha-young. He started thinking the other names must not be that important. He knew Yoon Ha-young was gonna be a big deal later on, turning into someone strong, but right now she hadn't figured that out yet, so she was still kind of in the background. Lee Seo-jun kicked things off and told everyone to say what kind of magic they were best at, just so the whole group knew who could do what. Replies came in. Shin Ji-hook was all about support, Yoon Ha-young handled manifestation and ice powers, and Jung Jintai was locked in on reinforcement. When it was Sun-woo's turn, he kept it real and said he was all about manifestation, but didn't mess with any one element. Ji-hyuk couldn't help himself and fired off a sarcastic joke, reminding everyone that the whole school's already seen the viral clip and knows what Sunwoo can do. Sunwoo was straight up annoyed and low-key embarrassed, gripping his phone tight while he typed out a quick message, just wanting to make it clear he was only sharing info. He leaned back in his chair, mind locked in on the game plan. They needed Lee Seo-jun to go full offense, with everyone else backing him up. If he wants to snag first place, he's got to beat Yuara's team. That gets him wondering who she picked to be on her squad. Out on the training field, a student was letting loose with her magic, going all out with some serious power. The teacher watched her closely, tossing out pointers as she went. She noticed that the girl kept locking in on control but wasn't letting things flow, missing the release part. So, the teacher suggested putting more power behind the mana and sending it out with way more speed. Ray was going all out, dropping a fire spell that looked like it could torch anything in its way. Everyone around just stared, totally blown away by how strong she was. Guys started saying her power was straight up insane. The teacher watched her crush it on stage, secretly impressed by how good she was. He could tell she wasn't just talented, she was born for this. She could tell Yuara still had a lot to learn, probably because she was so young. The teacher could tell Yuara had some serious power, but her mana use wasn't all that smooth. He saw she was wasting a bit of it. Out of nowhere, the teacher whipped around, eyes wide, catching sight of another magic beam flying through the air, this one looking way more controlled and on point. The teacher glanced over to where the magic came from and spotted Kim Sun-woo, looking pretty sure of himself after pulling off his spell. The teacher nodded, clearly satisfied, thinking Sun-woo did all right. Back in the day, the teacher could clearly remember how Kim Sun-woo would go all in on the manifestation part, but then he'd always mess up when it came to the release stage. He was so locked in on one step, he couldn't pull it together for the next. Even though he barely had any mana, he pulled off something wild. He finally figured out how to balance control and letting go, fixing the stuff he messed up in his last life. The teacher kept a close eye on him, honestly surprised at how someone his age could spot where he messed up and actually fix it so well. Once the lesson wrapped up, the teacher told everyone thanks for putting in the work and let the class know the specialization course was officially over. Everyone started heading out, glad that the tough training was finally over. Sunwoo also dipped, ready to just chill and recharge. He was about to head out when his teacher suddenly called his name, making him pause. She walked up to him, curious if he'd been staying on top of his training. He let her know he still gets his workouts in whenever he has some free time. She kept tossing out smart questions about mana cultivation, pretty much pointing out that he's always on top of that, right? Sunwoo could tell right away that she spotted the flaw he always had. Even though his mana was nothing special, his skills were seriously on another level. Sunwoo nodded, realizing she was totally right. The teacher flashed a chill smile and told him straight up that building mana isn't about shortcuts, it's all about grinding every day and sticking with it for the long haul. Sunwoo was pumped and ready to give it his all, but right as he geared up, the teacher cut him off by reaching out her hand to stop him. She handed him a small bracelet saying it would help him control his mana and keep his body steady. Sunwoo paused, not sure if he should take the gift. He felt a little awkward, kind of questioning if it was even meant for him. The teacher told him not to stress about it since it was only an F-rank tool she put together for practice, and honestly, it didn't cost her much anyway. Sunwoo nodded, really appreciating her help, and promised himself he'd make good use of what she gave him. As she headed out, he watched her go, already thinking about what he'd do next. Sunwoo strolled down the hallway, hyped about the surprise score he just picked up. Out of nowhere, he spotted Yuara chilling against the wall, eyes locked on him with that intense stare. He tried to break the ice and joked around, asking if he could talk to her again, since she'd told him not to earlier. She just brushed off his sarcasm and got straight to the point, wanting to know if he really joined Lee Seo-jun's crew and how she even found out about it. She called him out hard, saying he was just using Lee Seo-jun, the top guy, to boost himself. But then she made it clear she was going for first place herself this time, no matter what anyone tried to pull. She shot him one last look, kind of telling him to get his head out of the clouds. Then she just turned around and walked off. Sunwoo just froze, totally thrown off by how she reacted. He couldn't help but wonder why she was always so extra and defensive around him. Thursday morning hit, and Sunwoo showed up at the spot by the forest entrance, out of breath but honestly relieved he made it before anyone started calling him out for being late. Lee Seo-jun showed up with a big grin and looked around, realizing this was actually the squad's first meetup. He wanted everyone to go all in and give it their best for the first semester. Everyone started hyping each other up, and the whole place got loud with cheers. Shin Ji-hyuk checked out the team, smirking a bit. He clearly thought it was weird how they put the top guy and the one at the very bottom on the same squad. He turned to Sunwoo and started calling him out, wondering if Sunwoo could even hang with the rest of them. He brought up how Sunwoo didn't manage to use a single spell in the last test, making sure everyone remembered it. Sunwoo stared at him, eyes cold, catching on quick that Ji-hyuk was just messing with him on purpose. Jung Jintai stepped in, pretty chill about it, and basically let everyone know that since Lee Seo-jun brought Sunwoo along, It's on him to deal with whatever comes next. Kim Sun-woo shot his teammate Shin Ji-hyuk a cold stare. He could tell right away that Ji-hyuk wasn't planning to put in any real work, dude, just wanted to ride Lee Seo-jun's effort all the way to the top. Right then, Yoon Ha-young walked over, smiling like she always does, checking in on Lee Seo-jun. Meanwhile, Sun-woo couldn't help thinking her big moment was still way off in the story. That had him low-key nervous since the team now looked nothing like it did before. The squad moved along, and Sun-woo couldn't shake off that uneasy feeling. He kept thinking about the test ahead, hoping things wouldn't get messy just because of who was there with him. He snapped back to reality when the teacher called everyone to pay attention, ready to break down how the dungeon run was going to go. The teacher told everyone they'd be split into morning and evening groups for class. Since it was day 1, they were only allowed to check out the first basement floor. He went on to break down how the grading was going to work for this test. The teacher explained that teams who finished the dungeon the fastest would get extra points, so moving quick was the way to win. The second thing is rank adjustment points. That's why Lee Seo-jun picked Sun-woo. If a top student teams up with guys ranked lower, he scores even more solo points. The last thing he had to think about was what he actually brought to the table. In these artificial dungeons, there's this special setup where everyone gets bonus points depending on how much they actually pull their weight in the fight. The students got hyped and started cheering, making the place loud. After that, the teacher told everyone to head in with their teams and made sure they all remembered to keep it safe. Teacher Jang showed up to the monitoring room a bit after he got the students inside. The other teachers were hanging around, ready to start their usual game of guessing which team would come out on top. The catch this time? Every single one of them had their money on Ura's team. They got let down when Jang picked Ura's Group 7 too. Since there wasn't anyone left to go up against, the whole bet just got called off. Out of nowhere, the teacher who gave Sun-woo that bracelet just put her hand up looking super confident. She let everyone know she was down for the bet and picked Group 3, the one Lee Seo-jun was running. Teacher Jung didn't expect her to pick that way. She pointed out that while Lee Seo-jun and Ura both lead their teams, the students at the bottom aren't on the same level for each group. He talked about how Lee Seo-jun's squad just isn't solid, and the teacher was on the same page. Seo-jun is all about that reinforcement magic, which is great when he's fighting solo, but when it comes to handling a crowd, he's kind of stuck unless he's got a strong team backing him up. Teacher Zhang pulled up the screen, showing Ura already in the middle of the first floor. She was just wiping out enemies with her big magic moves, making it look easy. Even after hearing everyone's takes, the teacher didn't budge. She was locked in on her theory about the last place being the real troublemaker and told everyone to stick around and see what would happen. Inside the dungeon, Lee Seo-jun showed everyone he was locked in, taking down a massive monster with just one clean swing of his sword. The team moved forward, sticking close behind their leader, who always kept them locked in and ready for anything. Ji-hyuk was clearly impressed by Seo-jun's moves and couldn't help but notice they were already halfway there. They started joking around, not really taking it seriously, and thought the first floor boss would probably be some lame monster. Ji-hyuk figured it'd be nothing to stress about since it was just the start. His coworker just went along with him, but it was obvious he was being sarcastic. Meanwhile, Ha-young was low-key stressing, not sure if the boss would still come off as tough or not. Ha-young looked over at Sun-woo, wanting to know what he thought. Sun-woo just kept it cool, saying he was sure a giant wolf was about to show up. Ji-hyuk came to a sudden stop and shot him a look, clearly not buying it. He wanted to know how Sun-woo was in the loop. Sun-woo just brushed it off with a quick answer, but in his head he was clowning them all. He'd already been through this before. Ji-hyuk couldn't hold back his laughter. He started talking about Sun-woo like he was the type of guy who'd lie about anything, no matter what. He kept messing with him, doing goofy stuff to get a reaction, acting like he didn't buy anything he said and poking to see if he'd finally get mad. Lee Seo-jun stepped in to break things up, telling them to chill and hurry up already. Ji-hyuk didn't really want to, but he went along with it. Out of nowhere, Lee Seo-jun just stopped walking and stood still. He told everyone else to chill for a second, which caught them off guard and had everyone wondering what was actually going on. The team came to a halt when Lee Seo-jun spotted something weird on the ground. His buddies immediately started looking around, trying to figure out what had caught his attention. Everyone glanced down and spotted this blue magic circle lighting up under their feet. Nobody had a clue what it was, and you could tell by the way everyone looked around, trying to figure out what was going on. Jung Jin-tae couldn't stop thinking about why there was a magic circle here and if it meant trouble. Meanwhile, Shin Ji-hyuk was pretty sure the academy wouldn't throw anything risky at them. Kim Sun-woo moved in slow, staying careful as he dropped to his knees to check out the circle. Lee Seo-jun kept an eye out and told him to watch himself, but Sun-woo just waved it off, ready to take a closer look anyway. Sun-woo stared at the circle for a second and instantly knew it wasn't anything wild, just a basic barrier. Ji-hyuk, though, was eyeing him, kind of confused about how Sun-woo figured it out so fast. He knew for sure because he'd already seen this barrier pop up right in front of him last time around. He put his hand right on the barrier, acting like he already knew what was up. That's when Shin Ji-hyuk realized he should chill and said he was on the same page too. The whole team started getting nervous, thinking they might not make it through and would have to turn around to find some other way. Lee Seo-jun moved up, pulled out his sword, and told everyone to back off since he was about to try breaking through the barrier himself. He lifted his sword over his head, and that bright golden energy started to build up around him, getting ready to go all in on his next move. He slammed the sword down hard, making a loud bang and sending sparks everywhere. The force left a crack running through the barrier. Ji-hyuk and Ha-young pumped their fists, pretty hyped as they tried to figure out if the hit actually landed. Their hopes dropped fast when the smoke cleared and the barrier was still standing, just like before. That really got on their nerves. Lee Seo-jun wasn't about to back down. He held onto his sword even tighter, thinking that if he really zoned in and landed his strike just right, he might actually pull it off. Right then, Shin Ji-hyuk knew it was his turn to step in. He couldn't help but think, kind of annoyed, about how everyone just sees him as the backup guy. He walked up to the group and told them to hang on for a sec. Shin Ji-hyuk put his hand on the magic circle, thinking it'd be simple, but right away he realized this thing was way tougher than he expected. He figured it'd probably take him about 40 minutes to crack this tough formula the normal way, but he wanted it done fast, so he locked in and went for it right away. Sunwoo stepped in, looking totally sure of himself, ready to handle things. Shin Ji-hyuk just stared at him, kind of amazed at how Sunwoo was owning the moment. Ji-hyuk yelled, trying to get him to chill out and figure out what was going on. Sunwoo didn't pay him any attention and just fired up his interloper benefits. Right away, the magic circle started reacting to him. Screens started popping up right in front of him, and the system just started breaking down that crazy magic formula, running through it in seconds. All the details popped up in front of him. Korea Magic Academy, Artificial Dungeon, First Floor, Circular Barrier, Low Level, Boss Waiting, Giant Wolf. Sunwoo couldn't help but smirk to himself. Turns out, his story about the giant wolf actually checked out, which was honestly a win. On top of that, he finally figured out how the barrier worked, so he was feeling pretty locked in. The blue barrier cracked open right in front of him, lighting up the whole spot and showing that the way forward was finally open. Nobody moved as the barrier started to disappear. Everyone just froze, not really processing what was happening right in front of them. Sunwoo looked back at them, rocking a confident grin, showing he'd pulled it off. Lee Seo-jun and Ji-hyuk just stared, not even trying to hide how surprised they were. Both of them couldn't believe he pulled it off that quickly, and their minds were racing, trying to figure out how he made it happen so fast. Out of nowhere, a system pop-up showed up in front of Sunwoo, letting him know that Lee Seo-jun was honestly impressed by him and was now way more interested in what he was up to. The system finally dropped a message saying Lee Seo-jun's interest in him just hit level 1, throwing 5,000 points his way. Sunwoo just stood there, a bit confused, trying to figure out what this whole interest level thing even means. Out of nowhere, this massive wolf stepped out from the shadows at the top of the stairs. Its presence alone had the whole place on edge. Nobody could ignore how intense it felt. The first floor boss showed up, a massive wolf that looked like it was about to jump out at anyone who got too close. This thing looked locked in and seriously dangerous. The guys on the team froze up, all realizing at once that Kim Sun-woo had called it perfectly, like he could actually see what was coming. They couldn't help but feel a little freaked out by how on point he was. The wolf shot forward crazy fast, but Lee Seo-jun was ready for it. He jumped up, sword out, locking in on the perfect stance, looking like he knew exactly what he was doing. He moved fast, almost like lightning, and landed a perfect hit on the monster. It was so clean and precise, the attack went straight through the air and took the monster out for good. Lee Seo-jun dropped down smooth, barely making a sound, while the giant wolf crashed behind him. Just like that, the fight was over exactly what everyone would expect from someone at his level. At first, Yoon Ha-young was scared, but then she just started laughing, thinking taking down the floor boss was honestly no big deal. Almost as easy as fighting a regular monster. The team walked out of the dungeon through the gate, letting everyone know the test was done. Their teacher was waiting at the exit with the results, giving Group 3 a shout-out for landing second place in the first week. Lee Seo-jun couldn't believe it when he heard that Group 7, the one Yu-ara was leading, wrapped up the test a whole half hour before his group did. He started wondering how they pulled that off and needed to know who came in first. Seo-jun gave a quick, tight smile, realizing Yu-ara's team wasn't going to be easy to beat. When the guys heard Yu-ara's insane time 4 hours and 11 minutes, they started getting frustrated. The gap between their own time and third place was way too close, and that started to get under their skin. Lee Seo-jun rested his hand on Sunwoo's shoulder, letting him know that they pulled off second place thanks to what Sunwoo did. Sunwoo tried to say he didn't deserve the credit, but Seo-jun wasn't having it. If Sunwoo hadn't moved fast to break through that magic barrier, they would have shown up way later. Seo-jun was pretty hard on himself, thinking he should have nailed first place. But Yoon Ha-young wasn't having it. She shut down the whole self-blame thing from the leader right away. Sunwoo got everyone together, kept things chill, and let them know it's only the start, the first floor, first week. He made sure the squad remembered there's still plenty of time to turn things around. The team was getting ready to head out when they suddenly heard footsteps coming their way. That's when a teacher with bright red hair showed up, calling out for Kim Sun-woo. Sun-woo glanced over and instantly knew who she was. She runs the support magic department as the teacher in charge. She let him know she was there for a legit reason. She had an offer for him. Out of nowhere, she grabbed his hand, super hyped, and told him he should switch over to the support department right away. Sun-woo stared at her, totally confused and caught off guard. He just pulled his hand back, kept it cool, and made it clear he wasn't interested at all. The teacher totally lost it when he flat out said no without even letting her explain what the deal was. She told him to chill and at least hear her out first. She looked super confident as she handed him this insane scholarship for talents, like over $50 billion. But Sunwoo just stared back, totally straight-faced, acting like he couldn't care less. Ji-hyuk and his team just froze. Nobody moved, almost like time stopped, and one of the students straight up questioned if he'd lost his mind turning down an offer like that. People around the school started talking, saying how he's never been good at manifestation magic. Most guys there figured if they were in his shoes, they'd just take the deal right away. Sunwoo just stayed quiet, not budging at all. That's when Yu-ah-ra jumped in, trying to get him to think about moving over to the support department, asking if he was really set on not switching. She mentions that people with special talents get a bunch of perks, not just the scholarship, and that instantly makes Sunwoo look over at her. Sunwoo flashed a confident smile, letting her know he was set on sticking with manifestation magic after showing his thanks. Yu-ah-ra just stood there, totally thrown off by how he kept pushing for something he clearly wasn't good at. She couldn't figure out why he was so set on this path, and honestly, it left her kind of stunned. Kim Sun-woo was totally locked in, focused on scrubbing the hallway. Out of nowhere, Seo Yoon-ah walked up, moving like she owned the place. She definitely didn't expect to see a student handling this kind of job. She said hey, so he looked up and answered back, keeping it chill. Seo Yoon-ah hit him up all excited, calling out Sunbai Kim Shin-wook like she totally had his name down. Sun-woo tried to play it cool, fixing her on his name with a tight smile, making sure she knew he was Kim Sun-woo, not Shin-wook. She looked at him, kind of curious, and wanted to know why he was even cleaning in the first place. He just told her he cleaned up because the place was a mess, and she looked at him like he just did something epic. She put her hands together and hyped him up for being a good guy, talking about how solid his morals were and how he was honestly just a great dude. She gave him a big smile, told him to have a good one, and then walked out. The second she stepped back, Seo Yoon's whole vibe switched up. She just looked bored, thinking that whatever Sunwoo was doing really didn't matter. Out of nowhere, a system window popped up in front of Sunwoo, letting him know he'd just finished the Snail Bride achievement. He got 1,000 points for it, which made him crack a sarcastic smile. Now he had to figure out how to tell her he only cleaned up just to score this achievement. He wrapped up his work, picked up the bucket, and headed out, pretty happy he'd scored those points. Right then, a student showed up, kind of hiding behind the wall and watching him with this weird, secretive grin. The story jumped to the lecture hall. The teacher was running through all the monster types, showing off a wild 3D image of this scary-looking monster. He broke it down, saying there's humans, beast types, flying ones, and a bunch of other categories out there. He paused right when things were getting serious, pointing out that the demonized ones are actually the most dangerous out of all of them. He looked at the students and wanted to know why these things were so dangerous. Sun-woo put his hand up, totally sure of himself, and explained that you can't really tell them apart from regular people unless they decide to drop the act or they're about to lose control. The teacher gave him props for his answer and explained that these guys are straight up evil in society, drinking human blood and even bossing monsters around. While the teacher talked about how hard it is to spot them without special gear, Sun-woo started glancing around, a little on edge, wondering if a demonized could actually be chilling right there with them. Sun-woo thought back to the story he knew, realizing that this week was when things were about to get real. The demonized were supposed to show up for the first time right at the end of the week. This was the moment when Lee Seo-jun, still just a student, took down the enemy and ended up all over the news as a hero. Even though he trusted Seo-jun to take care of everything, he couldn't shake off that anxious feeling. He pictured the evil dragon's shadow in his head, reminding himself to stay alert and make sure nothing sketchy was hiding nearby. But then reality hit him hard. If he wanted to tag along with Lee Seo-jun on all these outings, he was gonna need cash. Sun-woo was chilling in his room, locked in on his meditation drills. As he focused, this green glow started to show up all around him, making the whole place feel kind of unreal. He got a pop-up saying his mana just went up by 0.02. Nature's Blessing gave him another 0.03 on top of that, and that trait even got a 12% boost in how well it works. He woke up and just knew all those extra training sessions were finally paying off. He'd built up a solid stash of mana, and honestly, he felt pretty good about it. He jumped out of bed, fired up when he saw a new pop-up saying his Nature's Blessing trait just leveled up to rank 2. On top of that, he just unlocked the active effect of his trait, which was called Nature's Heart. Sun-woo grinned to himself, pretty sure picking up that trait was the move. He scrolled through the details of his new ability, eyes wide. Nature's heart would boost his mana regen by a crazy 1000% for a full minute, but he'd have to wait 24 hours before using it again. Right then, he knew this was his emergency move, something to pull out when he's totally drained and needs to clutch up. Kim Sun-woo checked out the window in front of him, a small grin on his face. He just knew this kind of magic was his thing. It felt right, like he was built for it. That peaceful vibe got cut short when his mind suddenly jumped back to that super awkward scene with the support magic teacher. She'd grabbed his hand and basically begged him, way too hyped, to switch over to her department. Sun-woo let out a deep sigh, kind of annoyed, thinking back to how tempting that scholarship offer was. He had to admit, the money really had him interested. He checked his bank account and just stared at the screen. There was barely 3801 in there. That hit him hard, and it really sank in that being a student basically meant being broke all the time. He started looking for fast ways to make some cash, thinking about any short jobs he could jump on for quick money. He looked at what he could do, stuff like going into dungeons and taking out monsters for loot he could sell later. But after thinking about how risky that was, he decided that wasn't worth it. He started thinking about trying out tower climbing, pretty sure he could handle the easier levels without much trouble. The real problem was, he was still just a minor without a mage license, so he couldn't even get into the towers by the rules. Out of nowhere, he got hit with a genius idea. The story jumped over to the faculty room. The teachers were all talking about this one student who'd been grinding hard lately and really stood out to them. Everyone knew about Kim Sun-woo from second year. He'd show up way before anyone else and just start cleaning the halls on his own. No one even asked him to. One of the teachers noticed how locked in he was during class, always jumping in and staying on task. They even said his attitude was awesome. The female teacher laughed to herself, pretty proud, since she knew manifestation department students were always like this. She remembered the time the support teacher tried to snag him for their own team, but she was sure Sun-woo would stick with his crew. Most people thought it was cool to see someone who actually worked hard and was chill to everyone, since you don't really see that much now. Out in the hallway, Sun-woo couldn't stop cracking up, acting like he just pulled off the smartest move ever. He was hyped up, totally convinced he was a genius. He just scored the student beloved by teachers achievement and snagged 2,000 points, so he was riding that victory high. He pulled up the point shop and started scrolling, looking for that one item he really wanted. He finally spotted what he needed and dropped his whole 10,000 points on it, maxing out his limit. He sat there thinking hard, plotting out how he could milk this investment for everything it was worth and stack some cash while he was at it. Saturday morning came around and Sun-woo was posted up in front of this massive building, rocking regular clothes and some shades. He walked up to the guard, who stopped him and wanted to see his mage license. He pulled out his ID and handed it over to the guard, looking totally sure of himself. He let the guard know he was Kim Jin-woo, 25 years old, and a C-class mage. The guard checked out the card. Sun-woo's picture was on it, but he looked older and had glasses on. The guard glanced at Sun-woo, then eyed the card like something was off. Meanwhile, Sun-woo's heart was racing. He could barely keep his cool. Behind his sunglasses, his eyes kept moving around, worried someone might figure out who he really was. The guard checked out the card, made sure everything matched up, then handed it back, showing that Kim Jin-woo's mage info was legit. The guard flashed a quick smile and let him in. Sun-woo finally relaxed, letting out a breath he'd been holding. Sun-woo nodded at the guard, slipped inside the tower, and quickly wiped the sweat off his forehead. He was honestly relieved no one had figured him out. He checked out the fake ID he'd grabbed from the point shop a few days back. With this, he could pass off as a legit adult mage, no questions asked. He remembered the time he hit the buy button in the shop and dropped 10,000 points on a fake ID with a mage license. That thing was pricey, but he needed it. The card popped up in front of him, glowing like something out of a game. This wasn't your average fake. This one had some kind of magic built in, so nobody could copy it or even tell it was fake. With this, he was basically untouchable. He slipped on these magic glasses and instantly his eyes and face looked totally different. Checking himself out, he could tell his disguise was on point. Nobody would recognize him now. He made his way to his next stop, scrolling through his plans on his phone. He figured he'd handle things at the tower fast, then bounce straight to the Han River. Lee Seo-jun was set to take on the monster called the Mind there at 9030, and he didn't want to miss it. He walked through this huge gate, and right away the system called him Kim Jin-woo as he stepped into the Tower of Proof. He stepped onto the teleport pad, checking the screen that showed he could go as high as the 27th floor. The system popped up, ready for him to pick where he wanted to go next. He picked the 10th floor, and the system threw a warning at him, saying someone already cleared it and the rewards would be weak if he did it again. He just grinned, not bothered at all, because he wasn't after the basic stuff everyone else wanted anyway. The light blinked, and he zipped through the gate, basically an easy shortcut to move between the crazy tall floors. There are all kinds of towers in this world. Some are way tougher than others, depends how strong the monsters are and how wild the traps get inside. Sun Wu stepped onto the 10th floor of the Tower of Proof, a place that only showed up in a side story from the original novel. Even though this was just an early floor, most guilds straight up skipped it because it was weirdly tough and complicated. He had just started moving when this massive monster showed up out of nowhere, its 3 red eyes glowing in the dark. The monster lunged right at him, coming in hard and not holding back. Sun Wu didn't hesitate. He lined up his magic perfectly and took the monster out right away. He noticed these monsters weren't really that tough, so he stayed focused and kept moving. As he brushed off his hands, his phone lit up with a notification. He just scored his first hunt achievement and bagged 1,000 points. He glanced around, grinning wide, finally understanding why no other guilds wanted anything to do with this tower. The monsters here were total pushovers, but the whole place was packed with sneaky traps and some wild magic setups. For a guy like him, who could break down magic stuff in no time, this tower was basically designed just for him. He glanced at his watch, figuring he still had enough time to finish up here and head out for his appointment. Right by the Han River, people started packing in, even though there wasn't any event going on. Young Jun and Lee Seo Jun found themselves right in the middle of the crowd. Young Jun brought up snagging a quick photo to remember the moment, catching Seo Jun off guard. Even though the hero wasn't sure about it, his friend grabbed him and snapped a quick selfie. They ended up capturing a real moment that they'd probably laugh about later. Back in the tower, Sun Wu took down another monster and had dropped this bright red magic gem. He couldn't help but be impressed by his own luck. He scooped up the gem, thinking this would be enough to pay for his ride back. He paused in front of what looked like a regular wall. His instincts were telling him this was the spot, so he reached out and pressed his hand on one spot he remembered. The moment he put his hand on the wall, everything lit up crazy bright. Out of nowhere, a message popped up saying he just unlocked the barrier-breaking expert achievement. Out of nowhere, a hidden door slid open in the wall. He instantly got 2,000 extra points tossed his way as a bonus. Sun Wu stepped onto the hidden floor in the Tower of Proof, the one called Fantasy World. Right away he could tell the air was packed with some wild, mysterious energy, way stronger than anywhere else he'd been. His phone buzzed with a fresh notification. He'd just unlocked the Secret Explorer achievement and scored a huge 5,000 points. That was all he needed to light up with a big smile. Finally, he'd found exactly what he'd been after. Kim Jin-woo was right in the middle of this hidden hall, locked in and about to grab rewards nobody else even knew existed. The statue towered over everyone, its voice echoing through the whole place. It stared straight at Sun Wu, basically calling him out and testing if he had what it took to stand out from the other climbers. Once the statue was done talking, this super bright light just popped up out of nowhere, catching Kim Sun Wu totally off guard. Out of nowhere, the view switched to a bright garden packed with colorful flowers. Tiny flower fairies were flying around everywhere, just having fun and laughing like nothing else mattered. Even though they looked harmless, Sun Wu clocked right away that these things were actually C-rank monsters in disguise. Turns out, these sneaky creatures weren't nearly as weak as they looked. Instead, the second those things spotted humans, they basically turned into wild beasts and charged straight at him like they were on a mission. Kim Sun Wu wasted no time and blasted out a magic beam, landing a direct hit on one of the fairies. He focused, pulling all his mana into his hand. He knew if he wanted to make it out, moving fast was the only way. He let his magic loose, dropping the fairies one by one. The others started freaking out, not sure what to do next. Out of nowhere, Kim Sun Wu paused and stopped going after the fairies. Instead, he walked over to check out one of the magic circles he spotted on the ground. He figured out pretty fast that taking them all out wasn't the key to getting through the floor. He got it. What made him stand out wasn't being the strongest guy around, but having this one special skill nobody else had. He turned on the interloper benefits trait, and suddenly, these wild magical symbols popped up and started breaking apart right in front of him. He watched as the words showed up, challenging him to break down the formulas. He jumped right in and handled it with no problem. He grinned, totally locked in, because he finally saw the answer. It hit him that his real strength was cracking codes like this. Nobody else did it quite like him. He let his magic loose, showing off everything he'd learned since dropping into this world. That was his way of letting everyone know he crushed the test. He stood in front of the statue, feeling pretty pumped as the system popped up, letting him know the Tower of Proof had just unlocked a new achievement for him. On top of that, he scored a solid 10,000 points as a reward, making the win even sweeter. He got this D-rank trade from the tower itself like some kind of rare bonus. The path led him straight to a secret floor, basically a whole fantasy world. That's where he came across some real loot. The Red Dragon's Soul, a magic book, plus a stash of rare seeds and holy herbs. Pop-up showed up, letting him know his magic, mana recovery, and overall power just leveled up big time. Kim Sun Wu was hyped his plan finally worked, and he couldn't help but celebrate. Fireworks exploded in the sky, letting everyone know he'd just cleared the hidden floor. Young Jun stepped outside and watched the fireworks go off. He knew things were just starting to get real. Lee Seo-jun paused and called Young-jun over, pointing out something weird he noticed in the pic they just snapped. In the picture, they looked happy, just chilling and smiling for the camera. But behind them, something creepy was going on that nobody noticed. He told them to pay attention, pointing out a guy in a hat. The guy's stare had that dangerous vibe he recognized right away. Young-jun froze, eyes wide, not sure if he'd just seen a demon eyes staring back at him. The guy in the picture looked like any other regular dude, blending in with everyone around him, but if you really paid attention to his eyes, you could tell he was hiding something wild underneath. Down a shadowy alley, the demonized dude was barely staying on his feet, twisted up and hurting bad as the clock crept closer to 9030. Sunwoo, still undercover, couldn't stop stressing as he kept an eye on everything going down. The moment was here, but Lee Seo-jun was nowhere to be seen yet. Sweat started rolling down his face as he realized what he was getting into. This wasn't just some random side mission, it was the real deal, and if he messed around too much, he might totally throw off the whole story. The demonized dude accidentally collided with a student on the street. The student looked kinda nervous, checking if he was alright. Sun Woo, still undercover with his glasses on, watched everything go down. He didn't see that coming, and his eyes went wide as he tried to process what just happened. Out of nowhere, the demonized just went straight for the student and stabbed him right in the chest. Blood started pouring out, and the student was left gasping, barely able to breathe from how bad it hurt and how fast everything happened. He threw a heavy punch and sent the student flying while everyone around just froze, not sure what they'd just seen. He crashed to the floor, yelling out from how much it hurt. Out of nowhere, this dark energy just burst out of the demonized guy, ripping his clothes and showing off his shredded build. The power coming off him was insane. Everyone could tell he was done holding back and had fully changed. The monster spun around and zeroed in on a girl standing close by, his huge shadow completely covering her. People started freaking out as soon as they realized the demonized was on a rampage. Everyone immediately pulled out their phones, calling for help and reporting what was happening. Sunwoo just went for it, barely even thinking before he sprinted straight at the monster like he was locked in. He ditched the whole original plan right then. All that mattered now was making sure everyone got out safe. He sprinted straight at the monster, eyes locked in and totally focused on keeping everyone safe. Somewhere else, the Mage Association Special Forces guy checked out the student's photo and instantly knew the report was legit. He knew right away those red eyes meant trouble. They had to belong to something seriously dangerous, maybe even a demon. Young Jun let the agent know the target was close by. The agent saw just how bad things were getting. The festival had packed the place with people, and the kind of monster they were dealing with only got stronger the more blood it took in. Lee Seo-jun didn't see it coming out of nowhere. This creepy, dark energy just washed over him. It was the kind of vibe that makes you freeze for a second, like something seriously messed up is about to happen. The agent picked up on a huge surge of mana, so he locked in on where the fight was happening and took off, moving as fast as he could. Everyone at the battlefield was still scrambling, trying to figure out if things were safe or if they needed to dip. Out of nowhere, this massive monster showed up right in front of her. She totally froze, not even able to move, just hoping it would let her off easy. The monster lifted its massive fist, ready to slam it down on her while she screamed. Kim Sun-woo noticed the table was the only thing that kept the girl from getting crushed. He was seriously relieved that the girl was safe and nothing bad happened to her. She saw her chance and took off fast. Sun-woo clocked that the monster was really after her. Sun-woo took one good look at his opponent and instantly knew this was a demon, probably B rank or higher. He understood that charging in straight up would just get him wrecked, so he made a call. He was going to pour all his mana into one big hit and go all in. He locked in, zeroed his attention on the monster's weak spot, and lined up his shot with serious focus. The magic beam shot out hard, smacking the monster right in the head. The hit set off a huge explosion that everyone could hear. Sunwoo didn't expect to see the monster pop up with its face on fire and half of it totally busted. Sunwoo was freaking out inside. He knew he'd messed up. The mask broke to pieces, but the monster's brain was still there, not finished off. The monster went wild, blasting out this crazy purple energy. Sunwoo had to back off fast, barely dodging each swipe. It wasn't easy. He was struggling just to keep up. Sunwoo gave this tight, nervous smile when it hit him. He'd been holding onto this card for the perfect moment, but now he was out of options. This was it. He had to play his last move. Out of nowhere, his whole body lit up with this crazy blue glow. That was the sign nature's heart just kicked in, and his mana level started climbing fast. For the next minute, his recovery speed shot up by 1,000%, setting him up for the big showdown. Kim Sun-woo, still hiding his real identity, shot forward crazy fast, blasting out these bright blue energy balls. He locked in and just started blasting the monster with magic, not holding back at all. Even though he knew he probably couldn't finish it off in under a minute, he was all in, just trying to make sure the thing wouldn't walk away from this fight in one piece. The attack landed right on target, blowing up on the monster and making the whole place rumble. The monster got knocked back with each hit, but Sun Wu didn't let up for a second. He just kept going at it, using every bit of time he had to keep the pressure on. Sun Wu stood there, catching his breath, basically daring the monster to step up and see if it could handle what he was about to throw next. He locked in on the monster, zoned out everything else, and lined up a magic shot right for its head. He made it clear he was only going for the head. The attack landed perfectly, and the monster lost it, howling from the pain. Sun Wu was pretty happy with how things were going. He figured if he just kept up this speed, the win was basically his. Out of nowhere, the blue glow around him just disappeared, and he snapped to it. Time was already up. He reached for his mana again, but nothing happened. He was just stuck there, totally powerless. Meanwhile, the monster got back on its feet, looking straight at him with those creepy glowing eyes, and started moving in, slow and threatening. Right when things were about to get out of hand, a Special Forces agent from the Mage Association showed up and took out the Demon Eyes guy, cutting his head clean off. The monster's massive head crashed to the ground, and Sun Wu's eyes went wide. He definitely didn't see that coming. Agent Zhang Hyung-soo, rolling with the Special Forces, let everyone know things were under control while he walked up to them, cool and steady. The agent nodded at Sun Wu, clearly glad he stepped in and made the job way easier. After that, he asked Sun Wu to pull out his mage license, just to make sure he was legit and could actually get his reward. Sun Wu handed over the fake card like it was no big deal. The agent looked at it, pretty surprised, since he totally expected Sun Wu to be at least rank B after seeing what he could do, but the card said rank C. Sun Wu didn't expect Young Jun and Lee Seo-jun to show up right then. It caught him off guard. Sun Wu kept it together on the outside, forcing a tight smile, but inside he was totally roasting Seo-jun for making him wait. He just watched everything play out, barely holding it together. Seo-jun stared at Sun Wu, who was in disguise, and something felt off. He couldn't shake the feeling that Sun Wu looked super familiar, like he'd seen him somewhere before, even though he couldn't place it. Seo-jun wanted to know if the guy in disguise had ever heard of someone called Kim Sun Wu. He mentioned he went to the Magic Academy. Young Jun pointed out that the person in disguise looked a lot like Sun Wu, so he wondered if they were related. Sun Wu acted like he'd never heard that name before, saying it was totally new to him. The agent stepped in and told the students to head out, shutting down whatever mess they were starting with the mage. The agent nodded at Sun Wu, pretty grateful since what he did actually saved a lot of people. Seo-jun wouldn't take his eyes off Sun Wu. Meanwhile, Sun Wu got all stiff and just told the agent he was only doing what he was supposed to do. Sun Wu dipped his head to the agent, grateful the guy had his back. The agent let him know that a bunch of reporters and other agents were already pulling up to handle the mess. Out of nowhere, a system window popped up saying Sun Wu was now part of the team taking down the B-rank villain, Zhang Han. He definitely didn't see that coming. Suddenly, a warning popped up saying something in the story had shifted, and he got 5,300 points as a reward. That got him thinking. Maybe he went a little too far off track, and now he was kind of on edge about messing up the main story. Things just kept getting weirder when the system suddenly said causality was up by 0.2 points. Sun Wu scrolled through the causality info, totally locked in. Turns out, those points rack up whenever he handles big story moments. Bigger the change, more points he gets. He realized he could use these points to unlock special powers. Sun Wu stared, honestly blown away, thinking maybe he actually had a shot at saving Lee Seo-jun for real this time. He really started taking it seriously when he noticed that hitting 100 causality points meant unlocking this wild power that could pretty much let him do whatever he wanted. Kim Sun Wu just froze when he saw the system screen pop up. He stared at the info about this wild power called Deus Ex Machina. It unlocks when he racks up 100 causality points and basically lets him do whatever he wants. Right away, a big question popped into his head. Could this power be his way out and get him back home? He didn't waste any time. He knew he couldn't just stand there, not when Lee Seo-jun needed backup and those causality points were on the line. He decided he wasn't just going to sit back and watch things happen anymore. From now on, he was locked in on changing how everything played out. He got snapped out of his thoughts when his phone buzzed with a bank alert. A reward for taking down the demon 15 million won had just dropped into his account. He couldn't help but be impressed by how fast everything went through. He checked out his new spear, thinking about how wild his day had been. Instead of crashing back at the dorms, he figured it made way more sense to spend his cash on a solid night's rest somewhere actually comfortable. He glanced over at the Hansung Hotel, that fancy spot where all the top mages hang out. Walking through the fancy lobby, he couldn't help but think about how Hansung Group was this huge global company with serious money and influence. They were a big deal in the story, too. The staff spotted a VIP pulling up and instantly switched up, showing him serious respect right at the entrance. Over on the other side, Han Se-jin showed up. As the group's vice president and the main guy everyone expected to take over, he walked in with his team hitting him up with greetings. He found out from his assistant that his sister wanted to join him for dinner. He didn't see that coming at all. Sejin thought about his sister Han Se-yoon. It had been ages since they last hung out, so he decided to go along with what she asked. At the same time, Sun Woo suddenly remembered there was a character called Han Se-yoon in the novel. He was chilling in his fancy room, checking out all the gear he'd scored. The spear looked sick, but it stood out way too much and wasn't really practical for him, so he figured he'd just sell it off. He kept the reinforcement scroll for himself since he knew it'd come in handy down the road. The holy herb seeds and those 5 herbs, though, he was already planning to flip them to Han Se-yoon. He stretched out on his bed, knowing he'd have to hold off until tomorrow to make his move. The sun came up and suddenly every news channel was talking about this one guy. He just cleared the hidden floor in the Tower of Proof, and now everyone online was locked in trying to figure out who he was. Everyone saw the news about this guy, a C-rank mage, nothing special usually, but he pulled up to Han River Park right after leaving the tower and took down a wild demon. People online couldn't believe it. He pretty much surprised everyone. The Mage Association shouted out Kim Jin-woo for what he did, saying they might bump up his rank soon. Out on the street, people couldn't stop talking about how he took on that demon by himself when everything was going wild. Out of nowhere, Sun Woo's phone started blowing up with notifications. Apparently, he just unlocked this little hero achievement. 2 million people were showing love for what he did, and now a bunch of folks were checking him out, all curious about him. Thanks to that one news update, he racked up 21,000 points in one shot. He figured this was his chance, so he headed over to Hansun Pharmaceuticals to meet Han Se-yoon, now that people kind of knew who he was. When he walked into the company, the girls noticed him right away. They started talking about how good-looking he was and said he looked exactly like he did on TV. Sun Woo walked down the halls, head up, looking like he owned the place. All that new attention had him feeling pretty good about himself. He froze on the spot, heart racing, as he recognized the guy standing in front of him. Jung Suji was there, the S-class mage everyone called the Sword of the Hansung family. Sun Woo felt his nerves kick in, not sure why someone this powerful just showed up. As the door swung open, he couldn't help but think the guy might actually be here for him. Sun Woo took a deep breath and stepped up, calling himself Kim Jin-woo. He pulled out some herbs he'd picked up from the tower and asked the director to check them out himself. He was hoping the director would see if they were the real deal. Inside, Han Se-yoon, the youngest in the crew, had some herbs in her hands. She was pretty hyped that the main guy showed up to see her, but honestly, she was way more into checking out the herbs. They had her full attention, like they were something special. She realized the herb didn't have any of the usual mana roots, but there was still this strong vibe coming off it. She stared at him, totally focused and kinda curious, realizing right away that messing with this herb wasn't going to be easy, but it was definitely something special. She wanted to know how he even figured out it worked. Kim Sun Woo kept talking like he totally knew his stuff, telling everyone he'd been into medicine for ages. In his head, though, he couldn't stop thinking about the holy herb he had. It wasn't just some random plant. To him, it was something rare, something way more valuable than anyone else realized. He said this herb could seriously boost how well other stuff worked, but if he used it by itself, it wouldn't actually heal anything. He said the real issue was that nobody right now could actually deal with it, since the way it needed to be handled was super tough. Han Se-yoon kept listening, really paying attention, but she still wasn't totally buying everything he was saying. She realized the best move was to give the herb to someone who really knew their stuff, so she straight up asked him if he wanted anything special to seal the deal. Sun Woo held up his hand, showing 5 fingers, basically asking for a 500,000 million vance and a tiny cut 0.005% of Hansun Pharmaceuticals. Se-yoon couldn't believe what he just heard. He started laughing, kind of surprised at how confident the request was. To Se-yoon, 0.05% sounded tiny, but he could tell the other guy didn't realize just how huge their crew actually was, or how much that little percentage was actually worth. Sun Woo kept it cool, saying shares were the move over cash. He was confident that once the holy herb dropped for real, the company would pretty much take over the whole pharma game. Se-yoon didn't even think about giving up any shares. He just shut that down right away. For him, owning his part of the company was non-negotiable, so he told the guy to come up with a different idea. Sun Woo had that sneaky grin on his face. He totally saw the rejection coming. Not missing a beat, he dropped his backup plan. He wanted VIP access to this underground auction everyone talked about in whispers. On top of that, he was ready to hire the company to make some potions and track down the gear he was after. Sun Woo told her not to worry about the bill. He had it covered. Sun Woo threw her off by adding another rule. He wanted her to be his go-to messenger for his own missions. If she agreed, he promised to spill a huge secret about her brother, Vice President Han Se-jin, that could really mess things up for him. She couldn't believe what she just heard. Her eyes went wide, totally thrown off by how risky and gutsy that offer was. Sun Woo called her out, making it clear he knew she wanted to run the whole Hansung group. He told her straight up that if she kept acting like she didn't care, it could mess up her whole family later on. He really wanted her to pay attention. The news on TV wrapped up, giving props to Mage Kim Jin-woo for what he did. Somewhere sketchy, Bet Gang was talking about what went down with Jang Han. They admitted they could have stepped in and changed how things played out. Bet Gang slammed his fist down on the table, letting everyone know he was dead serious. They could totally pull this off and save him. His buddy tried to chill him out, letting him know the whole "don't get involved" thing came straight from the top. He explained that stepping in to help a teammate who was losing it in front of a bunch of humans would have put everyone at risk and totally given them away. Bet Gang just couldn't accept it. He lost it, yelling out, caught up in pain and frustration. He couldn't stop thinking about how much longer they'd have to keep hiding away, living in the dark like this. He stared ahead, eyes locked in and burning with revenge. Right then, he decided he was going after Kim Jin-woo himself. No one else was taking that guy down. His teammate stared him down, basically checking if he was really set on this, and pointed out that Jin-woo was getting pretty tight with their VIP. Bet Gang shot back, totally unfazed, teasing him like he had no clue who their client really was or how risky things could get. That evening, Han Se-yoon showed up at the company HQ and spotted her brother Se-jin hanging around out front. This was the same guy Bet Gang called a monster, the type who'd take out his own family without even blinking. Se-jin threw on a fake smile as he greeted her, acting friendly but not really meaning it. Han Se-yoon mentioned how it'd been a while since they'd last seen each other. They hopped into the car, and he casually threw out a question, acting like he cared whether her job was easy to handle. Se-yoon let out a tired sigh, thinking about how the job was tough, but talking to people all day just wiped her out. She was honestly drained from it. Se-jin used her complaint as ammo, throwing shade at their dad for giving her company shares way too early. He got close and quietly threw out an offer that sounded like he was just looking out for her, but anyone could tell he was only thinking about himself. He told her that if handling those shares was too much, she should just give them to him. In exchange, he said he'd hook her up with the vice president spot when he ran the show. She clenched her phone hard, muttering under her breath. Annoyed at not having it, she basically warned him to back off. Kim Sun-woo checked his phone and saw a message from Han Se-yoon. She was cool with what he asked for, and that made him grin. He thought running things with two separate accounts was actually pretty smart and kept things chill. Meeting Han Se-yoon turned out to be the move, especially since she ended up buying the spear from him too. Sun-woo thought back to when they met, noticing how sharp Han Se-yoon was. She didn't waste any time checking if what he said about her brother's weakness actually made sense. Out of nowhere, his phone buzzed with a fresh notification. Han Se-yoon hit him up, letting him know she'd handle his messages for just a month. She said she'd send over the upfront cash and the price for the spears today and wanted to check if he needed anything else. Sun-woo didn't waste any time and hit her up, asking if she could whip up some special potions for him and hook him up with an entry ticket to this secret underground arena. Se-yoon was down to help with the potions, but she let him know it wouldn't be instant, promising she'd reach out once everything was set. Sun-woo pointed out that even after switching things up and living as Kim Jin-woo, demons kept coming after him. He noticed it was just like in the original story, where revenge was always part of the deal. Sun-woo leaned back, trying to figure out his next move. He pulled up the system and started scrolling for useful traits. A bunch of sensing skills popped up, stuff like killing intent detection, sixth sense, and God's eye. He picked the A-rank killing intent detection trait, letting him pick up on anyone aiming to take him out from up to 500 meters away. The catch? It cost a crazy 50,000 points. He saw the price tag and knew it was way up there, but he still went for it. He saw it as something he had to spend on if he wanted to stay safe. A few days passed and Sun-woo, still undercover, ran into Han Se-yoon again. She handed over the potions he asked for. It was the Amplified Mana Elixir, rank B. This stuff cranked up mana recovery by 500% for 5 minutes, but once it wore off, it left him totally wiped out. Soyeon shot him a look, trying to figure out why someone with his magic skills would even need a potion like that. She kept those questions to herself, but it definitely didn't add up. She wondered how he already knew about her and her brother, thinking it was kinda weird but also interesting. He let her know he'd already checked out her brother's weakness using his own connections. She got real for a second and said what he found out was honestly wild. Se-yoon thought back to what she found out about her brother, Han Se-jin. He always had something off about him, but she never expected things would go this far. She never saw him as someone who could actually kill. She noticed proof that he'd been talking to someone who might be a demon, and honestly, she couldn't figure out how Sun-woo knew everything that was going on. Sun-woo just grinned to himself, knowing deep down it was all because he already knew how the story was supposed to go. He thought back to Han Se-jin, that guy who teamed up with a demon just because he wanted more power and ended up going full villain. Sun-woo said he'd drop more info if they gave him 5% of the company's shares. Se-yoon shut him down quick and told him to quit messing around. Sun-woo wanted to know about the arena ticket, so she let him know she already had one. But there was a catch, it couldn't be given to someone else, so if he wanted in, he'd have to roll in with her. Sun-woo saw her outfit and threw out a sarcastic comment, which instantly set her off. Si-yoon wanted to know what he was planning to do with the cash he just made, so he told her he was looking to grow it even more. Si-yoon totally misunderstood and thought he was talking about gambling, so she got heated and started yelling at him, telling him not to blow the cash she sent. Sun-woo just nodded, totally unfazed, which had her thinking he was straight up insane. She said she was done with their deal after this month, and right then, a system alert popped up showing that Han Se-yoon was disappointed and seriously lost interest in him. Sun-woo didn't even pay attention to how mad she was. He just kept smiling, totally chill, rocking a rabbit mask like it was nothing. He told himself that before they walked out of the arena, she'd trust him way more than whatever trust had just dropped. Down in a hidden underground arena, Kim Sun-woo showed up wearing a rabbit mask, trying to blend in while checking himself in. He heard someone call him a VIP, and right away, Sun-woo knew exactly who the guy in front of him was. Someone walked up to him rocking a red demon mask. Everyone in this underground scene knew that mask it was Ha Ryung, the top-tier villain who ran this brutal arena. Sun-woo bowed, putting on a fake polite act. In his head, he just thought it made sense for Ha Ryung to show up since he was the one who set everything up. Behind his mask, Ha Ryung grinned, secretly hoping their day wouldn't go as smooth as it looked. Ha Ryung walked out, and Sun-woo told himself to chill and not get mixed up with him right now. Han Se-yoon stuck close to Sun-woo as they moved through the packed crowd. The place was buzzing everywhere he looked, people were hyped up, and the energy was wild. Sun-woo noticed everyone was super hyped, and honestly, it made sense. Yang Hongjo was in the building. He was the fighter everyone was talking about online lately. Se-yoon didn't recognize the name, so Sun-woo explained that Yang Hongjo was basically the top fighter right now, with everyone watching his every move. He mentioned that Yang Hongjo was a mage who'd been the champ 3 years straight, and his fighting skills were basically on the level of a rank A. Going up against someone like that sounded pretty intense. Si-yoon thought it'd be smart to just put their money on him, so they basically have the win in the bag. But Sun-woo wasn't having it. He pointed out that if everyone else was betting on him too, there wouldn't be much cash to make, like barely any profit at all. Si-yoon stared at him, not expecting that at all. He just let her know they were in it for the cash, which meant they had to flip the usual plan and do things the other way around. Sun-woo walked up to the counter, ready to throw down a bet. He just stepped up, sounding totally sure of himself, and dropped a massive bet 530 million won on Yang Hongjo's rival. Se-yoon couldn't believe what he was hearing. It completely threw him off. The guy running the bet just stood there, totally stunned by how much cash was on the line and how risky it was. Si-yoon looked at Sun-woo, kind of thrown off, wondering if this guy was actually for real, and who exactly he was betting on with all that confidence. Se-yoon couldn't believe it when she found out Sun-woo had no clue who he was even betting on. Later on, the employee told Ha Ryung that someone just dropped a huge bet like 530 million won on some random rookie who's fighting his first match today. Ha Ryung kept thinking about who could have done something like that. The worker said the guy had on a rabbit mask. Ha Ryung instantly recognized him. He was that VIP guy. Ha Ryung kept his eyes on the bet, kind of amused. To him, this cash was nothing for these rich guys, just pocket money. He started thinking maybe the dude was just loaded but had no real style. Somewhere else, that gang shot up from his seat, totally caught off guard when his buddy dropped the news. Kim Jin-woo's name just popped up in the fighting arena, and apparently he showed up with Han Se-yoon. That gang grinned wide, clearly pumped that he finally spotted the person he'd been searching for. He told his guys to get the car ready right away, already set on getting back at whoever messed with Zhang Han tonight. The fight barely lasted before one guy just wiped the floor with his opponent. Se-yoon and Sun-woo just stood there, stunned, while the loser had no choice but to give up. The winner just stood there as the match wrapped up, basically saying he should have finished things earlier. The announcer called out that he'd won his first match, and the whole crowd started cheering. The crowd started yelling and throwing insults at the fighter who just gave up. People in the stands weren't having it. They called him out, saying he threw the fight on purpose. Someone started yelling at him, telling him to just die, and Se-yoon just stood there frozen, seriously freaked out by what was happening. She looked around the secret arena, voice shaky, noticing how brutal things were. Mercy just didn't exist here. Even with the whole place buzzing, everyone kind of knew the organizers wouldn't actually let it get deadly in the ring. Not long after, everyone heard it. The big match between the rookie, Rang Rang, and the champ, Yang Hongjo, was about to kick off. The betting scene was wild. People had dropped a massive 2.8 billion won on the champ, but Rang Rang, even as a newcomer, somehow pulled in a crazy 530 million won in bets. The hype in the arena was real. The announcer's voice echoed through the whole place as he went over these wild numbers, showing off just how much money people had thrown down on this new rookie that no one really knew yet. Kim Sun-woo stood there grinning like he already knew the ending. While everyone else kept it safe and put their money on the champion, he was the only one in the room who already had the inside scoop. People in the crowd started talking behind his back, roasting the guy who put all that cash on a rookie. They thought he was just throwing his money away and called him an idiot for risking it all. Sun-woo tuned out all the background noise. He was already locked in, running the numbers in his head and thinking about how he could pull in 6 times what he started with if everything played out his way. Both fighters stepped into the ring, and Yang Hongzhou showed up looking ripped, bringing this intense energy that made everyone pay attention. Han Se-yoon couldn't believe how huge the other guy was compared to Rayang Rayang. He just stared for a second, trying to process that Rayang Rayang was really about to go up against someone built like that. Rayang Rayang looked super small standing next to Yang Hongzhou, and Sun Wu, trying to keep things chill, cracked a joke about not hitting his growth spurt yet, even though he was low-key sweating. Underneath it all, he wasn't just there for the cash. He had his sights set on something way bigger, something to do with the villain group Gowan, and that was going to change everything later on. In the original story, Rayang Rayang ended up joining that criminal group. He was curious to watch him throw down at least once. Meanwhile, someone in the crowd started talking, trying to figure out who dropped that huge bet on Rayang Rayang. Sun Wu kept telling himself to chill, since everything was playing out just like it did in the novel. He knew for sure Rayang Rayang had never lost a single fight in the secret arena. Yang Hongzhou just stared at him, clearly not impressed. To him, the guy wasn't even worth getting worked up about. While he was thinking that, sparks of electricity started snapping off his body, like he was ready to go off any second. The champ took off straight at Rayang Rayang, moving fast like he was ready to finish things right then and there. Rayang Rayang barely slipped past the attack, moving just in time. Yang Hongzhou just swung and sent him flying with a solid hit. Everyone watching couldn't believe it. Most of them thought Rayang Rayang was already out for the count just like that. Everyone in the crowd felt the tension, and Sun Wu started doubting if this scrawny rookie actually had what it took to pull off a win. Outside, a luxury car pulled up with Beck and his crew inside. Beck's eyes were lit up, and you could tell he was pissed. He looked like he was ready to charge in without thinking twice. He realized messing up Ha Riyang's event would just get him in trouble too. He checked with his driver about what time the event would wrap up and found out it was set to end at 10,030. Beck Gang wiped blood off his mouth and grinned, thinking this was the best shot he'd get to take out Kim Jin-woo. Back in the ring, things started moving way faster. Yang Hongzhou just kept landing heavy hits, not letting up for a second. He let out a loud yell, pushing all his energy out, trying hard to take down his opponent who kept slipping away. Out of nowhere, he suddenly launched a strong kick straight at Rayang. He was clearly done with Rayang being in his space, making it obvious that he wanted him gone. Rayang Rayang took a brutal hit that sent him crashing straight into the wall, like he just got absolutely rocked. Everyone in the crowd started hyping up Yang Hongzhou, all of them wanting to see him end the match right there. Sun Wu slowly lifted his head, struggling a bit. Behind his mask, his eyes went wide. He just couldn't believe what he was seeing. He started mumbling stuff that didn't even make sense, almost like it just hit him that real life wasn't matching up with what he'd read in the book. Hongzhou stood right in the center of the ring, grinning like he just pulled off something big. The crowd was buzzing, not totally sure if he actually took the win or if their eyes were playing tricks on them. He froze when a dagger stabbed into him, and blood started pouring out fast. He wiped blood from his mouth, staring at Rayang Rayang. Rayang looked worn out, catching his breath and covered in a few scrapes, barely processing what just went down. Yang Hongzhou totally lost it, yelling and cursing as he tried to go in for another attack. Rayang Rayang moved quick, dodging the hit like it was nothing, then started throwing dart daggers non-stop. Yang Hongzhou took the hit straight on, getting slammed hard to the ground. He didn't even have a chance to brace himself. The impact was brutal. Rayang Rayang stood above the guy he just took down, staring him down with that icy look. Everyone went quiet right away, and you could hear people starting to whisper as news spread about how rough it was for everyone who put their money on the champ. Up in the stands, Han Se-yoon just stared, barely able to process what he was seeing. He couldn't believe Yang Hongzhou actually lost. He just sat there, trying to wrap his head around it. Out of nowhere, the whole place blew up. People started yelling and going off on Yang Hongzhou, calling him weak and straight-up garbage. Kim Sun-woo let out a deep breath, pretty much wrapping things up and making it clear he was ready to bounce. Si-yoon held him back, wanting them to head out at the same time. Ha Riyang sat up in his private box, eyeing everything going down on the floor. He couldn't help but think the whole thing seemed way too sketchy to be just a random thing. He noticed that Rayang Rayang only came out on top because Yang Hongzhou messed up. He shot a sharp look, thinking there was something off about that massive bet, like someone was playing a deeper game. He called for his assistant, so the guy showed up. Ha Riyang wanted him to figure out who actually won the bet today. Se-yoon sat in the car, totally locked in on Sun Wu, trying to figure out who he really was and how he already knew Rayang Rayang had won. He just hit her with this mysterious grin, saying it was just a hunch. That look alone got on her nerves. Sun Wu checked his phone and saw the insane amount of cash he just made. He couldn't believe how lucky he got today. He checked his bank app and saw over 3 billion won just sitting there. That instant rush, he knew he'd pulled it off, and nothing else came close. Out of nowhere, system messages popped up saying Han Se-yoon trusted him again and was actually really curious about him now. On top of that, he just unlocked the unrivaled gambler achievement. Han Se-yoon just got an interest score, and he ended up bagging a 7,000-point reward for it. Sunwoo was pretty happy, thinking this was the real payoff for picking up that killing intent detection skill. Out of nowhere, Sunwoo picked up on something sketchy, like someone had their sights set on him and it wasn't friendly at all. Sunwoo glanced over his shoulder, eyes wide, catching a car tearing after them way too fast, the whole thing giving off some serious dangerous vibes. In that moment, he got hit with the truth. People always have a darker side, and he could see it clear as day, especially since the whole story kicked off with Ma-men trying to get back at Jong-han. Se-yoon kept glancing over, clearly worried, trying to figure out why he looked so tense. Meanwhile, he kept his eyes on the car behind them, not letting his guard down for a second. He faced her, looking dead serious, and told her he needed her help ASAP. Sunwoo's car jerked hard to the side, switching lanes out of nowhere. The guy tailing him definitely wasn't ready for that and had to scramble to tell his boss that Sunwoo just switched up the route. Baek Gang told his driver to pull over right away. His eyes had this intense, cold look, and you could tell he was locked in on getting rid of Sunwoo for good. Baek Gang hung back, eyes locked on his target from a distance. In his head, he told himself this was the spot he had to take the guy out right here. He realized Han Se-yoon had dipped out and started questioning if this skinny dude could really be the guy who took out Jong-han. The guy didn't even look like he'd seen a gym, let alone survived a fight. While Sunwoo downed whatever was in that small bottle, Baek Gang noticed he was looking pretty drained, like his energy was just fading out. Sunwoo wiped his mouth, thinking the drink tasted awful. He yelled out, calling for whoever was after him to show themselves. On screen, the bottle's label popped up. It was a B-rank mana elixir, the kind that boosts mana recovery speed by 5 times for 10 minutes, but it leaves you totally wiped out after. Out of nowhere, this blue glow just wrapped around Sunwoo. He stood there, totally confident, letting everyone know he'd been aware of people watching him for a while. Baek Gang noticed his opponent suddenly switch up and get way more hyped, but he just stepped out from the trees, thinking it still wasn't a big deal. He thought Sunwoo was pretty sharp for catching onto him so fast, especially while getting ready for a fight and calling up those fire spears all around. Baek Gang let out a wild scream and just unloaded a storm of fire at his enemy, going all in and basically telling him it was over. Sunwoo focused hard, powering up his hand just in time to stop the attack like it was nothing. Baek Gang grinned to himself when he noticed he still had 2 shots left to go on the offensive. As fire came down all around Sunwoo, his eyes locked in, totally focused and careful about every move. The attack landed, setting off a loud explosion that everyone could hear. Han Se-yoon sat in the car and it finally hit him. The fight was already on. The story jumps back to just before they got out of the car. Sunwoo kept checking the rear view, clearly on edge, and let her know that someone might be tailing them. That instantly had her stressing out. He pulled the bottle out of his bag. While she tried to figure out who was after them, maybe thinking it was some other company messing around, he let her know she was pretty much on the right track. Sunwoo wanted her to go somewhere nobody else was around, since he was planning to catch whoever was following them. She looked at him, clearly stressed, and wanted to know if he could really take the guy down. He kept it real and let her know it wouldn't be a walk in the park. He let Se-yoon know that the other guy's mana was way above rank B, then checked if she was actually sure about going through with his call. Sunwoo flashed a confident grin, locked in on his idea, then turned to her for some backup. She slammed on the brakes out of nowhere and just decided to let him handle it from here, putting all her faith in whatever moves he had. Back in the middle of the fight, Sunwoo was on point, leaping out of the way as spears flew past him. Se-yoon was in the background, yelling for him to make it back in one piece. Sunwoo thought dodging was easy for him. Back in his first year, he'd already put in work as a reinforcement-type mage, so stuff like this barely fazed him. Baek Gang thought the dude was just going to keep running, so he started pressing even harder, trying to show off and really go at him. He unleashed a ton of fire spears, basically daring his opponent to see what they'd do next. Sunwoo was moving so fast, it looked unreal. He dodged every hit like it was nothing. Baek Gang just stared, realizing Sunwoo had leveled up his speed out of nowhere. Baek Gang's face scrunched up, and you could tell he was getting annoyed and tense. Sunwoo dropped to his knees, his energy swirling around him. He knew the boost from the elixir was almost out, barely 2 minutes left, so he had to move fast. He was done messing around. He hit the Nature's Heart power, and right away, a system pop-up let him know his mana would recover crazy fast, like 1,000% faster for the next 60 seconds. Baek Gang froze for a second when he noticed his opponent's energy just shot up out of nowhere, way stronger than before. Sunwoo darted at him so fast it was like he left a blue streak behind. Baek Gang just froze, not ready at all for how quick Sunwoo moved in. Baek Gang clocked that things were about to get real when Sunwoo charged at him, so he got the fire spears ready. He got ready to block whatever was coming, determined not to let anything get through. But Sunwoo was locked in. He slipped past every hit, not letting a single one land. Baek Gang clenched his jaw, hurting as his opponent just kept coming at him. Even though it was rough, he stayed locked in and fired back with his own blast of flames. Sun Wu focused, blue magic swirling in his hand. He wasn't about to let Bait Gang catch a break, so he charged straight at him, pushing right through the attack without slowing down. Sun Wu didn't even slow down when he saw the wall of fire. He just pushed right through, taking the hit so he could get to his opponent. He pushed forward, totally locked in, putting everything he had into making sure his next move would finish it up close. Bait Gang didn't see that wild attack coming at all. He tried to cover up and defend himself, totally annoyed that things went sideways so fast. Sun Wu realized that from where he was, lining up a perfect headshot just wasn't happening. Sun Wu locked his grip on his opponent, sending his magic straight at the guy's neck. Sun Wu let out a loud yell, making it clear he was done with all this. Meanwhile, the Bait Gang totally lost it, yelling as pain hit them hard, and they realized things just flipped on them. Sun Wu suddenly let loose all the power he'd been holding back, blasting it straight into his opponent. His opponent just stood there, stunned, totally not ready for what just hit him. Sun Wu took a few steps back, out of breath, just trying to process how his opponent was still up after getting nailed like that. Bait Gang pulled himself together and focused everything he had left into shaping a fire spear. You could see it in his eyes. He was locked in, ready to get payback, and nothing else mattered. He lifted his spear, aiming straight at Sun Wu, yelling that he was about to end him. Out of nowhere, this huge blue light tore across the sky, dropping down with enough power to wreck everything in its path. The hit landed hard, breaking Bait Gang apart for good and taking him out instantly. Sun Wu let out a big breath, finally chill now that backup was here. An older guy who just gave off serious boss vibes showed up with this massive sword. That was Jiang Suji. He was the Hansung family's main sword and an S-class mage. Jiang Suji stood there, barely reacting, staring down at the body. Sun Wu just remembered. This guy's known as the Sword Demon, and in the original story, he's one of the toughest dudes around. He took out Bait Gang, who was on that A-rank level with just one hit. Jiang Suji tried to keep it together, but he was clearly annoyed, thinking hard about how some random demon even thought about messing with the youngest Hansung daughter. Han Se-yoon spotted Jin Woo and Sun Wu, and he rushed over, clearly worried, wanting to make sure everything was all right. She checked on Sun Wu to see if he was all right, and he let her know he was good, no scratches or anything. He mentioned how stalling actually worked out since backup finally showed up. Se-yoon shot Jiang Suji a confident grin, letting her know she was caught up in this just as much as he was. She said she brought him in because, out of everyone she knew, he was the toughest and gave them the best shot at making it through alive. Out of nowhere, system pop-ups showed up letting everyone know that the B-rank villain, Bait Gang, was taken out. There was a small twist in the story, with causality bumping up by 6C. Han Se-yoon's trust got back on track, and a 1,000-point reward dropped in as a bonus. Sun Wu stared at the screen in front of him, totally satisfied with the rewards popping up. Jiang Suji looked over at Se-yoon, wondering if it was time to let the chairman know what just went down. Se-yoon snapped back to reality, knowing a demon attack was nothing to mess around with. Sun Wu didn't want her telling anyone, thinking that if people found out someone from Hansung got attacked by a demon, it would just blow up and make things way worse for them. Sun Wu thought it through and realized if he dropped the truth right now, everything would just blow up. He figured there was no point in making things messier than they already were. Han Se-yoon nodded, realizing that if word got out, everything would just get way more messy and stressful. She glanced over at Jiang Suji, making it clear she wanted him to keep this just between the two of them. Suji nodded and did what the girl asked, making sure she knew he got it. 3 days later, Sun Wu was just chilling in his room, thinking back to when Han Se-yoon promised to tell him anything he wanted to know after he had her back during the whole Bait Gang mess. He wanted to know when the Holy Herb potion was actually dropping in stores. Hansung Pharmaceuticals dropped a new potion that made medicine work way faster. Everyone thought the company's stock was about to blow up, all because director Han Se-yoon was always one step ahead. Sun Wu stared at his phone, totally locked in. He just dropped everything he had on Hansung shares, all because he was ready for this exact moment. It was 8,059 on the clock, just 60 seconds to go. Right when the clock hit 9, the market kicked off. Sun Wu watched the stock index shoot up, and he couldn't help but get hyped as his profits basically doubled in real time. He thought back to his last life, kind of annoyed, remembering how he spent years clearing dungeons and taking down monsters but still couldn't get his own house. He couldn't believe how easy it was to make money like this. The whole thing almost felt like a joke, but it left him with this weird, kind of bitter feeling that something about it just wasn't right. He was deep in thought when his phone buzzed. Han Se-yoon had just hit him up about grabbing lunch tomorrow and even mentioned there'd be a gift in it for him. Sun Wu didn't see the gift thing coming at all. The next day, he walked into the cafe and spotted her already there. She said showing up early was just her thing. She started chatting about how the stock was climbing and how she'd made some solid cash. Then she turned to him, curious about his own gains, and threw out a guess. Maybe he'd racked up 50 million. He totally caught her off guard by making 3 billion won in just one day. She couldn't help but smile, kind of seeing it as her own way of giving him props. Sun Woo nodded at her, clearly glad for the help, then wasted no time asking what the gift was all about. She set a photo down on the table, letting everyone know she had figured out who the Majin was that came after them before. She let him know his name was Baekgang, someone everyone knew as a hitman who blended right in with regular people. She got real serious and let everyone know she'd found out about someone who was always in contact with that killer. Turns out it was her older brother Han Se-jin standing right there. Sun Woo already knew Han Se-jin was out here handling demons, but he never saw it coming that Baekgang was actually one of them. Sun Woo acted like he didn't care, saying the info was cool but not really a gift. Even though they'd literally saved each other before, she still thought he was kind of calculating. She handed him a small box, letting him know this was the real present. It was her way of saying she was actually excited to work with him down the road. Sun Woo could tell something was off, especially since she wanted to talk before things got busy. He couldn't help but wonder if something was up. Se-yoon got up to head out, pretty much certain now that her brother Han Se-jin's link with Baekgang made it obvious who set her up. She shot a look that made it clear she couldn't stand owing anybody, whether it was a favor she had to pay back or some beef she needed to settle. Sun Woo just stood there as she walked away, finally getting what was really going on. Turns out she totally got it wrong. Han Se-jin never sent Baekgang to take her out. Kim Sun Woo couldn't stop thinking about how Han Se-jin never really changed. He was still the bad guy, and sooner or later he'd end up getting in Han Se-yoon's way. So, he decided it actually made sense to use Han Se-yoon to get to her brother, Han Se-jin. Se-yoon suddenly called him Mr. Kim Jin-woo, snapping him out of whatever he was thinking. He just answered back, kinda confused about what was going on. She handed him the gift, smiling and hoping he was into it. She wanted him to know she picked it out herself. Sun Woo grabbed the box and gave her a quick polite smile to show he appreciated it. He popped open the box and spotted a silver bracelet that really stood out. Right then, an info window popped up, showing it was a mana alloy bracelet, rank B. This thing was built tough, loaded with mana, and the durability was straight up SS tier. Sun Woo's eyes lit up. This was exactly what he'd been hoping for, and it honestly just hit different. Out of nowhere, a system window popped up saying Ha Ryong was curious about him. It dropped a 1,500-point reward, and he just stared at it, totally stunned. The story cuts to this fancy office with barely any light, and Harry Young's there, just chilling at his desk, scanning through some papers. Some guy walked in, rocking a long coat, and gave Ha Ryong a serious, respectful nod. The guy walked in and gave a respectful bow, realizing it'd been almost a decade since they last saw each other. Ha Ryong wanted to know if Cheon-hai showed up because of something with the 10 Demonic Council. Cheon-hai nodded, but held him back because he had a question he wanted to ask first. He brought up what happened a few days back, talking straight about how his close friend Jong-han and Baekgang had been killed, thinking Ha Ryong was already in the loop. Cheon-hai pulled out a photo of Kim Jin-woo and showed everyone. Turns out the same mage guy was around for both situations, which was kinda sus. He pointed out, eyes lit up, that before Baekgang died, his crew checked things out and found this guy had pulled up to the Coliseum, the hidden arena, not too long ago. Cheon-hai turned to Ha Ryong and wanted to know if the name Kim Jin-woo rang any bells for him. He slid a new photo next to the first one. This one showed Sun Woo with the rabbit mask on, making it clear that Ha Ryong had already figured out he was the same VIP dude who placed bets on Rayang. Cheon-hai wanted Ha Ryong to dig up some details about Jin-woo. He was planning to use Jin-woo's blood as a sacrifice, hoping it would honor his fallen friends. Out of nowhere, this insane dark vibe shot out from Ha Ryong, making the whole room feel heavy and straight up intense. Cheon-hai just dropped to his knees, struggling to breathe, completely overwhelmed. Ha Ryong gave him a hard stare, eyes lighting up red, making it clear that messing with his client would end really badly for him. Cheon-hai was shaking, totally scared, trying to convince everyone he wasn't going to mess with Kim Jin-woo. Ha Ryong took a breath and chilled out a bit, then told him to just pass along whatever the 10 Demonic Council wanted to say. Cheon-hai started reading out the message, sweat running down his face. He let him know there was a new prophecy that just dropped at the Prophet's altar. According to the prophecy, the kid who's supposed to wipe out all demons will unlock their powers when they turn 18, and after that, the Demon King's days are basically numbered. Harry Young looked annoyed, thinking the king was making a scene again over the prophecy kid. He wondered if there was any new info about it. Cheon-hai, looking pretty on edge, let everyone know that they'd finally tracked down where the child of prophecy was. Turns out, the kid's about to turn 18 this year. He ended up at the one place everyone talks about, the Magic Academy. Sun Woo stood in his room just staring at the bracelet and the magic scroll. He knew he had to hit pause on being Kim Jin-woo for now. Another system notification popped up, basically reminding him that Ha Ryong was curious and there were points on the line. Still, he kept it cool and figured now wasn't the right time to mess with Ha Ryong. He picked up the magic scroll, reminding himself there were bigger things he needed to handle right now. Kim Sun-woo stared down at the magic scroll in his hands. It was a rank B spell shield scroll, basically. It could throw up a barrier to block one enemy spell, but after that, he'd have to wait 12 hours before using it again. He knew this scroll was about to be clutch for whatever was coming next. Midterms were about to kick off, and the whole academy started to tense up. These exams are where students have to show what they've got in front of a bunch of teachers and officials watching their every move. This moment is huge for Lee Seo-jun and his future, but honestly, the real game changer behind these exams is something way bigger than just school or career stuff. Everyone's talking about the Child of Prophecy, the one who's got these wild powers to wipe out demons. People say he's supposed to team up with Lee Seo-jun in the future. The real problem is that demons are already after this kid, trying to get to him before he even wakes up, and there's this insanely strong demoness leading the charge. In the main story, demons show up at the school right at 4 p.m., throwing everything into total chaos. Normally, Lee Seo-jun would have just taken them out right then and there, and that would have been the end of it, just how things usually go. Sun-woo sat there really thinking it over. This part of the story might seem minor, but there were signs everywhere, like stuff was about to go down. He realized he couldn't just keep his eyes on Lee Seo-jun anymore. This time he had to pay close attention to the Child of Prophecy too. At the training grounds, the instructor showed up in front of everyone, ready to drop the schedule for next week. Then he mentioned he had something else important to tell them. The classroom got kind of loud as students started asking for a break since exams had them drained. A few guys even started messing around, trying to get the teacher to spill about his first crush just to change things up. The teacher cracked up, nodding hard and making it clear that fighting and training are basically the same thing. The teacher told the second years they'd all be doing free sparring sessions to get ready for midterms over the next few days. All the students started talking quietly, checking out who was teaming up with who. The teacher let everyone know that if someone couldn't find a partner, it was cool to just watch or train solo. Sun-woo glanced around the room, sizing things up and figuring out what his next move should be. Lee Seo-jun got that look in his eyes, super locked in and ready to show everyone what he's got. Across from him, Yue-ra wasn't backing down either. She stared right back, fully ready to go toe-to-toe. Sun-woo saw them together and felt pretty relieved, thinking they'd probably end up as a couple just like in the original story. He was glad he hadn't made the first move himself. Before he knew it, he was just standing there by himself in the arena. Everyone else had already picked their squads, and nobody came over to team up with him. It was kind of awkward realizing he was the only one left out. Honestly, it just made sense. Even though he was good at figuring stuff out and breaking through barriers, nobody really wanted to get paired up with the guy who always landed at the bottom of the class. He kept telling himself it didn't matter anymore since he'd already picked who he wanted as his partner. He looked over just as a wild fight was going down and saw Lee Seo-jun get rocked with a solid hit that almost knocked him off his feet. Seo-jun brushed the sweat off his face, trying to play it cool with a tight grin. He knew that was way too close. He seriously thought he might not make it out of that one. Yue-ra stood right there, flames practically blazing around her. She stared him down, basically letting him know she wasn't playing and that from now on, first place belonged to her. Seo-jun flashed a confident grin, kind of hinting that she shouldn't rush things. At the same time, his energy started building up, like he was getting ready to make his move. Both of them charged straight at each other, going all in. Seo-jun jumped in, making it clear he hadn't even started taking things seriously yet. Yoon Ha-young stood out on a far-off balcony, eyes locked on the wild scene below. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Were those actually Lee Seo-jun and Yue-ra down there? When the top two students threw down, their powers slammed into each other and set off this huge blast of light and energy that had everyone staring. Yoon Ha-young stared at her own hand, noticing how cold it felt. She tried to brush it off and act like it didn't bother her, but deep down, she couldn't help but feel a little bad for herself when she saw how talented the others were. No matter how much she tried to stay chill, the comparison just hit different. She thought back to when the other students started talking about her. One guy threw out Yoon Ha-young as a possible training partner, saying she was ranked 82, but his friend shut it down right away like there was no chance that was happening. He said no, claiming she knew all the theories but just couldn't put them into action. Meanwhile, Yoon Ha-young stood there by herself, looking down, clearly upset. A teacher watched her from across the room, thinking it was tough for students like her who were smart but couldn't quite keep up physically. Still, he thought, at least she was genuinely nice. Yoon Ha-young stood in front of the training dummy, out of breath and clearly worn out from her last try. She looked frustrated, holding back what she really wanted to say, just biting her lip and staring at the target. The ice she made hit the wooden target and just broke apart, dropping to the ground without doing much. It was pretty clear her magic still wasn't strong or steady enough. She balled up her fist, totally frustrated, wondering why nothing was clicking even though she kept grinding nonstop. Inside, she was just fed up, trying to figure out why all that effort still wasn't paying off. She was deep in thought when someone calmly pointed out that her ice move looked weak. That caught her off guard, making her whip around to see who said it. She turned around and spotted Kim Sun-woo right behind her, his face dead serious. For a second, it threw her off, but then she realized who it was and her mind just froze. Sun-woo kept going, getting right up close to her and roasting her skills even more. He called her out for her ice not being cold enough and said her aim was way off, making it clear she was missing the basics everywhere. She just stood there, pretty much frozen, super embarrassed while he went off. Right then, Sun-woo understood that acting this harsh was just him owning up to what he'd done. In the original story, Yoon Ha-young should have leveled up to rank 6 by now, all because Lee Seo-jun dropped some solid advice during their last dungeon run. Because he messed with how things were supposed to go, she ended up missing her shot, and she didn't level up after that. He couldn't help but feel bad for the rest of the squad. Sun-woo figured he'd help her level up, but he wasn't about to sugarcoat anything. He straight up let her know she was struggling, but also promised that if she stuck with him, he'd make sure she could actually pull her weight on the team. In his mind, this was the only way to get her moving, even if he had to be a bit harsh. Ha-young wasn't having any of it. She just glared at him, straight up mad, and called him out like she knew exactly the kind of guy he was. She saw the way he acted and thought he was just bringing her down since he couldn't actually do what he talked about. Sun-woo just shot her a cocky grin, kind of calling her out. He wanted to know if she actually meant what she said, or if she was just mad because she couldn't argue back at all. Ha-young's face tightened up, straight up annoyed, as his words hit something that really got to her. She shoved his shoulder, clearly let down. She'd thought he was a solid dude back when they were exploring the dungeon, but now it was obvious she'd totally misread him. Sun-woo started stressing, thinking maybe he pushed her harder than he should have. He tried to say sorry, stumbling over his words, but before he could even finish, she cut him off fast. Everyone could see the magic energy lighting her up as she let everyone know she was ready to throw down and settle things with a fight. She was basically calling him out, wanting to show just how tough the school's lowest-ranked student could be. Sun-woo could barely hide how pumped he was. She totally fell for his setup just like he wanted. Ready for whatever she threw at him, he nodded, all in for the challenge. Sun-woo just grinned, totally unfazed, while chunks of ice shot his way. The shards zipped past, and he didn't even get a chance to react. Ha-young got ready to kick things off, totally locked in, her eyes showing she wasn't messing around. Sun-woo moved quick, slipping past her attacks while chunks of ice smashed into the spot he'd just left. He caught on that she was stepping up her game. Her ice was hitting way harder now, and he couldn't help but respect her skills. He didn't let up for long and started picking apart her moves again, saying she was way too predictable. He told her straight up that real ice magic is all about switching things up and having options, not just raw power. That got her fired up, and she asked if he actually wanted to see something new. She threw her hands up, calling down a huge ice spear from the sky. She wasn't backing down, she was all in. Sun-woo glanced up, totally caught off guard. The giant spear slammed into the ground, blowing up ice everywhere and making Sun-woo leap back fast. Ha-young stared down at her hands, totally surprised. She just pulled off the move she could never nail, no matter how hard she tried. The massive ice wall just stood there, showing off her new power, and Sun-woo stuck the landing right on top of it. Sun-woo checked her out and it suddenly clicked. She probably just needs the right push to really show what she can do. He grinned to himself, pretty sure messing with her was the move. Meanwhile, she stared back at him, her look totally changed. Kim Sun-woo held his ground on this huge ice pillar, not budging an inch. Down below, Yoon Ha-young started yelling at him, clearly annoyed and demanding to know what his plan was if all he was going to do was run. Sun-woo kept it cool and almost smug, basically calling her out with his attitude. He could tell she was mad, so he figured she was definitely not trying to team up with him. Even so, he didn't slow down, he just charged at her full speed, not backing off at all. Right then, he broke down how mages who focus on manifestation are pretty much done for if someone gets up close. Once the gap's closed, taking them out is honestly no big deal. Sun-woo didn't waste a second, he lunged at her, moving so fast it was like he was already there. She tried to pull off an ice move, but he shut it down without breaking a sweat. She started backing off, clearly not ready for how quick he was. He closed the distance before she even started her next move, but just as it looked like he was about to go in, he pulled back right at the end. Sun-woo wrapped up the match with this chill smile, totally unfazed, while Ha-young just stared at him, completely thrown off by how fast she got taken out. Ha-young dropped to the floor, totally spent. She knew she'd lost, no way around it. She looked up at him, her face all serious, almost desperate, basically admitting she might actually need him to teach her magic. Sun-woo reached out to her, saying she actually had skills, she just hadn't figured out how to use them right yet. He asked if she wanted to join him and see what it was like together, offering to help her out. Ha-young stared at his hand, thinking back to what he said about bringing out her real skills. She held onto his hand, squeezing it like she was all in, letting him know she'd trust him this one time. Suddenly, a system pop-up showed up saying Yoon Ha-young was starting to like him more, and her interest just hit level 1. At the same time, she wanted him to help her out as her teacher. Later on, when training kicked off, Sun-woo pulled out this tiny ice crystal. He let her know they were about to start tribute adaptation training. He broke it down for her, saying every mage has to get used to their own element before they can really use magic. He broke it down, saying that adapting is basically about really getting what the attribute is all about. If you understand it well, that's what lets you actually pull off magic and show what you can do. Sun Wu made it clear that if she skipped the basics, it wouldn't matter how much she trained, her skills just wouldn't level up. Ha Young knew the basics of adaptation training, but seeing how he did things had her on edge. She tried to play it cool, but you could tell she wasn't sure about what was coming next. Out of nowhere, she ended up stuck under a massive pile of ice right in the middle of the hall. The freezing cold had her shaking, and she started yelling because she'd never heard of anyone training like this before. Sun Wu just stood there laughing with this wild, kind of evil grin. He basically let her know that the quickest way to get the hang of this stuff is to just feel it out for yourself. He told her to stop wasting time and get used to it fast, otherwise the ice was going to disappear. Somewhere else, in a place that felt heavy and almost impossible to breathe in, this wild demonic energy started building up, and honestly, it was getting out of control. Shan He looked around, checking if his whole crew was there. His guys nodded back, letting him know everyone had pulled up. The demons dropped to their knees in front of him, showing they'd pulled together all the demons hanging around the Magic Academy just like he told them to. Cheon He let everyone know, serious as ever, that next week was locked in for finding the Child of Prophecy and sneaking into the school. A follower shared that someone on the inside noticed security at the school gets pretty chill when midterms roll around. One of the demons started grinning, looking like he'd been waiting for this moment forever. But before he could get into it, a girl from the group cut him off, asking why Lord Ha Ryong wasn't around to back them up. Cheon Hai's face tightened with frustration as he explained that things didn't work out. Ha Ryong had basically shut him down, saying he had something bigger lined up that could change everything for their people. The follower looked stressed, pointing out that there was no way anyone could take out the Child of Prophecy with just 4 B-rank demons. Another follower started messing with her, calling her dumb and acting like taking down one kid was no big deal. She shot back, telling him not to get cocky just because security was chill. Everyone kept poking at him, wondering how he'd handle it when all the guild scouts started rolling up at school. Some of them even threw shade, acting like there's no way he could deal with all that on his own. Jaeyeon He heard what his followers said and knew they were right, but he just grinned in that kind of way that says he's got something else planned. He pointed out that if they just keep anyone who could mess with their plan out of the way, the whole situation changes completely. Out of nowhere, this huge wave of purple energy started building up around them. It formed a massive barrier that cut them off from everything else. Everyone there recognized it as the Great Demon Barrier. Cheon Hai stood tall inside the barrier, giving everyone the green light to go wild and take down whatever they wanted. He let them know he had their backs the whole time, but before they got too hyped, he reminded them what really mattered. The main mission was to take out the Child of Prophecy. Inside the academy, Sun Wu kept working with Ha Young, telling her to lock in on the attribute before worrying about her form. He told her to really lock in and remember how the ice felt, like down to her bones, so she could picture it even when he wasn't around. Out of nowhere, she ended up with a flawless ice spear in her hand. Ha Young stared at the spear, barely believing she'd actually pulled it off. She'd been grinding for so long, and now she finally got the hang of manifestation. She couldn't hold back, she just let out a loud yell, hyped that she managed to make an ice spear all by herself. Sun Wu grinned, clearly hyped that she leveled up so fast after just a few days of training. He was basically proving his point from earlier, she seriously had something special going on. A system pop-up showed up saying Yoon Ha Young trusted him, dropping 1,500 points his way. She was super hyped, calling him Teacher Kim Sun Woo, and basically saying she was all in on whatever he said from now on. At first she was hyped, but things flipped real quick when she ended up stuck in ice up to her neck. Sun Woo just stared at her all serious and asked if she could handle it. She acted like she was tough and told him to put in more ice, but her face was bright red and she was shaking, so it was obvious how much it hurt. Sun Woo told her to hang in there, making it clear this was all about helping her get stronger. Ha Young sat there freezing, arms wrapped tight around herself. Sun Wu watched her locked in, thinking hard. He decided right then he had to help her level up so one day she could actually back up the hero when it mattered. From up on the balcony, one of the students just stood there, frozen, eyes locked on what was happening below. Seo Yoon just froze, trying to figure out what these guys were even up to, and if this was straight up bullying or something else. From where she was standing, what was happening at school just seemed way out of line. She knew she couldn't just let it slide, so she went straight to the teachers to let them know. Right as she was about to move, teacher Lee Hui Young showed up behind them. He was just standing there, looking chill, and said how it's always awesome to watch talented students level up. Seo Yoon started freaking out and tried to show the teacher what was going on, but the teacher just stayed chill and let her know she already knew about it. Turns out it was just some attribute adaptation training. The student just froze, not sure if this was actually part of the training. The teacher let him know she'd been keeping an eye on everyone from the very start. The teacher pointed out how Ha Young managed to use her mana super fast, and honestly, everyone could tell she was seriously impressive. What's wild is how one student just got the problem right away and basically showed his friend how to figure it out. Seo Yoon couldn't believe it when she realized the teacher was talking about Sunbai Kim Sun-woo. The teacher was kind of thrown off too, not expecting her to know who he was. Seo Yoon got thrown off and said he didn't really know much. Meanwhile, the teacher quietly mentioned that she figured he just memorized the names of the top students. The teacher told Seo Yoon to remember Sun-woo's name, saying he's got a lot of talent and could go far, even though Seo Yoon pointed out that Sun-woo's at the bottom of the class right now. Most people just pay attention to the end result and barely notice all the work someone puts in to level up their skills. The teacher tells her she should let him show what he can actually do. She looked pretty confident, smiling like she was actually hyped for the midterms coming up. Sun-woo came to a sudden stop right in front of the system screen. He stared at it, realizing things had just gone south. He spotted an ad for the Space-Time Pocket, a bag that could stash up to 30 kilos, and it was on sale for a short time. Sun-woo clocked how much he needed this thing. Being able to pull out gear anytime, anywhere was clutch. Not just for fights, but for day-to-day stuff too. Plus, hiding his weapons just got way easier. Kim Sun-woo stared at his screen, realizing the special discount store just dropped something crazy. A space-time pocket that could hold up to 30 kilojoules. The deal was wild too, half off for 20,000 points. But checking his balance, he only had 8,500 points to his name, so he knew he was way off from snagging it. Sun-woo dropped to the floor, tears running down his face as he yelled out, totally crushed. He couldn't stop asking himself why the best discounts always showed up when his points were at zero. He pulled himself together and started thinking things through. He realized he had to rack up 11,500 points in just 5 days, and he needed a plan that would actually get him there. No luck or guessing. Out of nowhere, his phone buzzed with a message from teacher Lee Hui-young, telling him to head over to the faculty office right away. He walked into the office and spotted 3 students already there, Yu A-ra, Park In-hwan, and Kim Sun-woo. The teacher came in and let everyone know they'd made the cut for the Manifestation System special class. It was a second-year advanced group, and only students with real potential got in. Grades didn't even matter. Sun-woo figured that since Lee Seo-jun was in the Reinforcement System special class, joining up would give him more chances to hang out with him. Park In-hwan suddenly jumped in, cutting things off by raising his hand. He was straight up against Kim Sun-woo getting into the special class and made sure everyone knew it. In-hwan shot a glare at Sun-woo, clearly annoyed. He couldn't believe he, who was ranked 5th, ended up in the same group as the guy who always came in dead last. To him, it just didn't add up. In-hwan glanced over at Yu A-ra, hoping she'd jump in since she was up next. Ra just kept it cool and asked why she even had to bother, pretty much saying everyone should just do their own thing no matter who shows up. In-hwan stood there, fists clenched, totally heated and embarrassed. She couldn't help thinking this was exactly why she never really had anyone to hang out with. The teacher turned to Sun-woo, wanting to know what he thought about what the other teacher said. Sun-woo just grinned, totally sure of himself. If his rank was holding him back, he figured he'd just grind it up and level past the problem. The teacher was down for his challenge but told him he had to show what he could do on the midterm before letting him in the class. The scene jumped over to the Coliseum arena. Sun-woo and Yoon Ha-young were heading in side by side, and she couldn't help but wonder if hitting rank 80 or above was even doable. He told her they'd be good as long as they didn't mess up the plan. She nodded, ready to do exactly what he said. During the second year, the midterm wasn't just some boring test. It was this wild team event where each student had to squad up with a partner and take on a summoned monster called the Green Giant. Sun-woo broke it down, saying the thing could get taken out fast if someone aimed for its weak spots, which showed up as purple crystals. The problem was, those crystals kept switching spots and didn't really stand out, so finding them was tough. He mentioned that most students pull off decent grades just by pushing themselves through the tough times. He caught himself and admitted that only real geniuses can wipe out every single monster. Once the fight kicked off, Sun-woo looked over at Ha-young, hoping she'd clear away for him. She was on board right away, no questions asked. Ha-young unleashed her ice magic, blasting the ground in front of them and turning it solid with a thick layer of ice. Sun-woo was flying across the ice, moving fast, while the Green Giant came charging straight at them. Other students watched him and started making jokes, thinking back to the time he got embarrassed before. They were all curious if he was about to mess up again and run out of mana. Out of nowhere, a system window popped up showing that 254 people were watching him, hyped to see what he'd do next. He got 1,000 points for it, but it hit him. Everyone was just waiting for him to mess up and get embarrassed. His interloper perks kicked in, making all the weak spots on the giants light up in purple right in front of him. Sun-woo launched himself off the ground, eyes lit up and totally focused. He was done messing around. This time, he was all business. He fired off a bunch of quick, sharp magic blasts straight at the giants. He fired off shots that landed right where he wanted, even with giants charging straight at him. Kim Sun-woo glanced at his hand, which was still glowing with magic. He couldn't help but let a small, proud smile show. Turns out, things wrapped up way smoother than he thought they would. He barely had time to chill before his face switched up fast. He spotted something in the stands that totally threw him off. He spotted Cheon Hai, the guy pulling the strings, the demon leader, just chilling in the crowd, checking his watch like he had all the time in the world. Sun-woo was blasting out his last big move to take down the green giant, but his head wasn't even in the fight. He was stuck thinking about the mess unfolding right in front of him. Sweat started dripping down his face as he tried to wrap his head around why the person behind the attack was even at the school this early. He remembered from the original story that demons were set to invade the school right at 4 p.m., right after exams wrapped up. That's when everything was supposed to go wild, with chaos breaking out and explosions tearing through the place. His mind was racing, but then Yoon Ha-young's voice cut through everything, yelling for him to pay attention because something bad was about to happen. The green giant lifted his massive club and slammed it down hard, aiming straight at Sun-woo, who wasn't even paying attention. Sun-woo got launched way off from the hit, basically sent flying through the air. Ha-young dropped an ice spell and the monster started moving way slower. Ha-young sprinted over, grabbed his shoulder and shook him hard, trying to snap him out of it and get his head back in the fight. The giant wasn't letting up at all. He charged at them again, ready to smash, not even giving them a second to catch their breath. Sun-woo snapped back fast and, without wasting time, got hyped up and started building a ton of magic in his hand. He aimed straight at the monster and blasted a crazy strong beam that just tore right through the giant in no time. It was gone for good, leaving everyone around totally stunned. Everyone in the livestream chat went wild during the exam. Nobody could believe this guy at the bottom of the class just pulled that off. Some guys started hyping up his real skills, while others broke down how he used that condensed manifestation move to nail the monster's weak spot. People were starting to realize it wasn't just some lucky shot dude actually knew what he was doing. Up in the stands, one of the stronger students was checking things out. He watched closely, actually impressed, thinking this guy looked way more skilled than what people usually said about him. The Coliseum lit up with noise as the crowd got hyped over the match. Everyone was seriously impressed. It was way better than anyone thought it would be. People couldn't stop talking about how skilled the girl fighting next to him was. Ha-young got so hyped, she just jumped up and hugged Sun-woo tight. She was pumped that they actually pulled it off. Sun-woo, on the other hand, was still spaced out from what he just saw. He kinda replied, but you could tell his mind was somewhere else. Out of nowhere, a bunch of system pop-ups started spamming him, showing that 582 people actually remembered his face. He racked up thousands of points just like that, and even some big names like Kim Dae-kyun and Park In-hwan started paying attention to him, which honestly felt kind of embarrassing. But Sun-woo just brushed it all off right now. The exam was the last thing on his mind. Sun-woo glanced up at the big arena clock and saw it was almost noon. He knew something was off when he spotted Cheon Hai slipping out of the stands, all quiet. That's when it hit him. The story had gone totally off script. Sun-woo started stressing hard, thinking maybe he was the reason the story went off the rails so much. He started to really get it. If the story switched up, saving the school might not be a sure thing anymore. Right then, the scoreboard popped up, showing Lee Seo-jun and Yu Era's team snagged first, and Kim Sun-woo and Yoon Ha-young's team landed second, barely missing the top spot. Ha-young spotted how pale he looked, sweat basically pouring down his face. Instantly, she got worried and checked if he was alright or if something was up. Sun-woo didn't waste any time cleaning things up. He threw on a chill smile, acting like he was just worn out and nothing was wrong. He let her know he'd head to the training hall to chill and look over his notes. Meanwhile, she sat there thinking she must have messed something up on the exam and started worrying she was the reason he seemed off. Sun-woo cut her off, not harsh but confident, telling her she should trust herself more. He looked her straight in the eyes, letting her know she really killed it today. Ha-young's cheeks went red after hearing his honest compliment, and she gave him a small, happy smile that showed she was a bit shy but really appreciated it. Sun-woo told her goodbye and said she should just chill and rest up if she was tired, telling her not to stress about training. As soon as she walked away, his smile dropped. He got serious real quick, looking a bit tense as he started thinking about what to do next now that everything had changed and he had no clue what was coming. Kim Sun-woo kept his eyes on the arena, analyzing everything. He needed to see just how much things were drifting from how the story was supposed to go. He thought to himself that if things were going how he expected, something big should go down right about now. Out of nowhere, he spotted Lee Seo-jun in the middle of the crowd. Seo-jun stood there while a crowd of guild reps closed in on him, all waving their cards and throwing out wild offers. The Northwest Guild guy was basically yelling his lungs out, trying to get Seo-jun on his team. Meanwhile, the Heimdall rep just planted himself in place, saying he wasn't going anywhere until Seo-jun said yes. Things started getting wild. Everyone was talking over each other, trying to get his attention. One girl even held up a banner saying how much she liked him, while another tried to tempt him with a ticket to a fancy apartment and some kind of instant bonus if he joined Sigma Guild. People were already calling him King Seo-jun. Seo-jun kept it cool and tried to dodge their questions with a small smile. He let them know he was just 18, so he wasn't even allowed to join a guild yet. The reps just wouldn't let it go. They kept crowding him, pushing their business cards into his hands, basically blocking him in from all sides so he couldn't even walk away. They really wanted him to hit them up later. Not far off, a guy was watching everything go down. One of the scouts even told his buddy he'd ditch checking out the third-year exams just to see what Lee Seo-jun was up to. Out of nowhere, someone else started calling out for Kim Sun-woo. Someone let him know that Mr. Jong Ankle wanted to talk about something to do with his grades. The scouts all glanced over at Sun-woo. Word started to spread about how he was ranked dead last at school, but everyone could see he was steady and improving fast. Even at the bottom, his progress was catching people's attention. Seo-jun clocked what Sun-woo was trying to do right then. Seo-jun spotted his chance and darted through the crowd, weaving past everyone. He told them he couldn't leave the teacher hanging and would check out their offers later. The scouts weren't happy that he got away. They complained about missing their shot after almost catching him. In the end, they just decided to check out the rest of the third-year exams instead of sticking around and wasting more time. On the other side, Jong-hyun-soo, who's part of the anti-terror squad, looked over at his commander, wanting to know what he thought about Lee Seo-jun's fighting skills. Commander Kim Dae-ok-hyun just shrugged it off and said the performance was all right. Jong-hyun-soo remembered just how legit Seo-jun was, thinking it made sense he was the third student of Chairman Kim Jin-chul, the top mage out there. The commander paused for a second and checked himself, giving Seo-jun a look that basically said he could tell the kid was new and hadn't seen any real action yet. Hyun-soo couldn't help but tease him about it, pointing out how the commander was sizing Seo-jun up like some special ops rookie, even though they were really just supposed to offer him a spot for after he finished school. The commander told him to chill and wondered why Hyun-soo even tagged along. Hyun-soo just grinned, like he was happy, and thought back to how he missed hanging out with the commander during all that chaos at the Han River with the demons. The commander let out a sigh as he thought about experience. He wondered if Lee Seo-jun had gone up against the demon back then. Maybe he would have picked up the real-life skills he's missing right now. Out of nowhere, he switched things up and wanted to know what Hyun-soo thought about Kim Sun-woo, the guy who finished dead last. He started hyping Sun-woo's fighting skills, saying it's wild that someone ranked at the bottom could move like that. The commander stared him down, making it clear that Sun-woo's move wasn't just some lucky guess. He had this real talent for spotting weak spots in a split second, like it was built into him. He made it clear that you only get good at this after grinding through a ton of tough experiences. They both started laughing, not taking it seriously at all. They couldn't believe anyone would think an 18-year-old had gone through that much, so to them it just sounded like a joke. Out of nowhere, Commander Kim Dae-ok-hyun's face shifted, like he just put two and two together. He started connecting Lee Seo-jun, the student, to Kim Jin-woo, that mysterious mage who showed up during the river incident. It was like something just clicked for him. He looked around, surprised, still trying to wrap his head around how an 18-year-old could be that smooth with the compressed manifestation technique. It just didn't add up. Right then, Hyun-soo knew he had to keep the name Kim Sun-woo locked in his memory. Seo-jun and Sun-woo found a spot on the stairs where nobody was really looking. Seo-jun looked genuinely thankful, letting Sun-woo know he would have been stuck there for ages if he hadn't stepped in. Seo-jun was curious why Sun-woo wanted to come back to this spot with everyone around. Sun-woo just figured it was smart to check out the exam ahead of time since they'd have to face it next year anyway. Seo-jun was kind of stressing about running into the scouts again, but Sun-woo just brushed it off. He pointed out that the scouts were already chilling in the teacher section, and since they showed up through a different entrance, there was basically zero chance they'd cross paths. Sun-woo stared at Seo-jun, kind of zoning out, and it finally clicked. Seo-jun really wasn't trying to be labeled as one of the top guys at school. Seo-jun was down to just chill and watch without making a scene, trying not to get caught. While they kept an eye on the arena, Sun-woo realized things had really gotten off track this time. Sun-woo started thinking back to his last life. The demon attack had kicked off right at the third-year exam spot, mostly because the demons could easily link up with their inside guy and pull off their plan. Kim Sun-woo kept his eyes on everything, staying on edge since he had no clue when the attack might start. He figured the best move was to make sure Lee Seo-jun stayed put in the exam hall so he could go off and look for Cheon-hae himself. Sun-woo glanced over at Seo-jun, who was sitting next to him. He was sure this was the easiest and quickest way to keep the prophecy kid safe. Then Seo-jun turned to him, curious if anything went down after his exam. Seo-jun wondered if he was talking about the scouts, but the guy just smiled, acting like it was no big deal and stuff like that happened all the time. Sun-woo was honestly just relieved he was alright. Sun-woo let out a breath, thinking he hadn't messed up the main storyline yet. Everything was still on track, and that took a load off his mind. The duel kicked off in the arena, letting everyone know the exams were officially on. Outside, someone in disguise spotted the scouts heading into the third-year exam hall. That was all the proof he needed. The inside leak was right on the money. Cheon-hai stared him down, not really showing any emotion, just wanting to know how the rest of the plan was going. His assistant showed up and pulled out a hidden bag from the bushes, letting him know that those monster summoning circles were stashed all over the school, just like he'd told them. She explained that Jensen, who totally loses it whenever he spots people, got moved to this hidden spot where nobody ever shows up. Cheon-hae looked pretty impressed with how Yang Hyun handled everything. Seriously, the guy nailed it. But Yang Hyun didn't take any credit for himself. He just pointed back to Cheon-hae's guidance like, it's all because of him. Cheon-hae stood there, holding this glowing energy orb in his hand. He looked straight up villainous, basically letting everyone know it was finally time to start hunting down the child of prophecy. Out of nowhere, a blast of magic shot straight through the arena floor. Everyone froze for a second, then the whole place went wild when a girl cried out in pain. Park Min-ye didn't waste any time. She just gave up and dropped out of the match right away when things started getting risky. The ref got ready to call out that Kim Chang-hyun had won the last match. Lee Seo-jun was totally locked in, hyped up as he watched the third-year exam. He was really having a good time, just enjoying every moment of it. He thought Sunbai Kim Chang-hyun's magic skills were on point, like the perfect example of how manifestation magic should look. He also noticed how focused and sharp Sunbai Park Min-ye's moves were. Meanwhile, Sunwoo kept glancing around, clearly tense and uneasy. Sunwoo kept looking through the crowd the whole game, trying to spot Cheon-ha, but she was nowhere to be seen. It got him thinking something weird might be going on. Seo-jun picked up on how nervous he was and wanted to know who he kept searching for in the crowd. Sunwoo played it cool and said he was just checking out if any guilds wanted him. Seo-jun just laughed it off and told him he'd for sure get picked up by someone. Sunwoo glanced over at Seo-jun, realizing just how far this guy had come since the semester started. Seo-jun looked over at his coworker, honestly wondering how the guy managed to get that strong. He was curious what kind of training routine this dude was on to level up like that. Out of nowhere, this weird buzzing noise started echoing through the place, and Sunwoo's face totally switched up. He looked stunned. He stared, frozen, as his eyes went wide. This shouldn't be happening. None of this ever went down in his last life. Everyone started freaking out when this random barrier popped up. Guys were looking around, trying to figure out if someone messed up or broke some rule at school. People wanted answers fast and were calling for the teachers to show up. Nobody really knew what was going on or if something bad had happened, and outside, that hidden bag suddenly started lighting up. The bag popped open and suddenly, dark energy started spreading out. Black portals showed up all over the place, making the whole vibe super sketchy. Cheon-hae's lips curled up and you could just tell he was about to start something. Without missing a beat, he gave the signal to go in. Monsters and goblins just poured out of the portals, going straight at the students. The whole place turned wild with everyone yelling and freaking out as these things attacked out of nowhere. Suddenly, alarms started blaring all over the place. The school's announcement system came on, letting everyone know there was a monster invasion and telling students and anyone else around to get to the safe zone ASAP. Right then, this massive purple barrier popped up and wrapped around the whole school, cutting it off from everything outside. Cheon-hae stood in front of the massive barrier, rocking a cocky grin. He was clearly proud of how everything was playing out. All the teachers, scouts, and top-tier mages were stuck inside, totally cut off, so now the arena was just his playground. No one left to really challenge him. He stood his ground, stomping his foot like he owned the place, while a whole squad of goblins started closing in behind him. No backup was coming, and he made it clear the child of prophecy had to step up and show who they really were if they wanted to survive what was coming. Out of nowhere, a bright red streak sliced through the air and totally caught him off guard from behind. Cheon-hae froze, his face showing he never saw that attack coming. Out of nowhere, two guys showed up in suits. Kim Dae-ok-hyun had this massive red spear, and Jong Hyun-soo was holding a sword. They wiped out all the monsters around the area instantly, making it clear the special forces just pulled up. Everyone outside just stood there, totally stunned but also super relieved. As the special forces rolled up, the students started cheering. They honestly couldn't believe help had actually shown up. Turns out, these top players actually showed up just to watch Lee Seo-jun's match. Now, instead of chilling in the crowd, they were all locked in, standing together and blocking the monsters, keeping everyone safe. Kim Sun-woo watched everything go down, pretty sure that team leader Kim Dae-ok-hyun was calling the shots for the group moving in. Nearby, a teacher looked at Lee Seo-jun, trying to calm him down and let him know they'd be right there as soon as the barrier dropped. The teacher wanted Seo-jun to not stress and just count on him. Sun Wu figured bringing in the special forces could really change things for them, but he couldn't ignore that there was still one big issue hanging over their heads. Sun Wu stared up at the massive purple wall surrounding the school, trying to figure out how to break through and join the real fight outside. Outside the stadium, one guy was straight up pounding on the barrier, freaking out and hoping the mages would notice him. He was seriously regretting not going inside before everything went down. Support teacher Kim Yoon-jin stepped in, all business, letting everyone know that dropping the barrier right away wasn't possible unless another A-ranked support mage was around. She was clearly bummed, since nobody there matched those requirements, and honestly, high-level support mages like that are pretty rare. She called out to everyone, telling them to really pay attention. If she had to search by herself, it would take her half an hour. That's way too long for the people stuck inside. Sun Wu heard how long he'd have to hold out and instantly got nervous. 30 minutes against those monsters? That sounded impossible. If it really took that long, dropping the barrier wouldn't even matter anymore. Sun Wu thought back to how strong Chaiyan Hai was, realizing the dude's barrier moves were honestly on another level. He thought back to how things went down in the original story. Even Lee Seo-jun, who was supposed to be the main guy, never managed to beat him unless he pulled some sneaky move. That just proved trying to break the barrier the normal way was a waste of time. Sun Wu realized he had to step up, so he started making his way forward. Out of nowhere, a girl showed up and said she could help. She introduced herself as Yang Young-yun, an A-rank support mage, and said she just happened to be around. The woman pulled up with this confident smile, acting like she had everything under control. But Sun Wu spotted her right away. He knew she was actually Yang Hyun in disguise. Sun Wu froze, thinking about what would happen if he outed her as a demon right now. He knew people would just start looking at him sideways, and it wouldn't even fix anything. Yang Hyun started powering up her magic, signaling to teacher Kim Yoon-jin for some backup to get the barrier up. The teacher was happy to help out and jumped right in. Out of nowhere, magic circles started lighting up all around them. Everyone could tell the barrier was coming down just fine. Everyone in class relaxed for a second, thinking the teachers had it handled and they'd be out of there soon. But then Sun Wu shut that down real quick. He grabbed Lee Seo-jun's arm, holding on tight, and pulled him along. He made it clear Lee had to come with him right away. No time for questions, he'd fill him in later. Right then, teacher Kim Yoon-jin noticed something was off with the monoflow. She suddenly noticed that as she tried to push the barrier up from her side, someone on the other side was locking it down even harder. She froze when she realized what was really happening. Instead of the barrier fading away, it was actually getting stronger, turning even more solid right in front of her. Cheon-hae caught on to what was going down and, deep down, he was actually impressed by how sharp the support teacher was for catching that move. Chae-hai glanced over at the group, realizing he had to mess with Yang Han's plan somehow. He kept it low-key and moved his hand just enough to get them looking his way. Out of nowhere, the goblin monsters just snapped and started charging at everyone inside the barrier. Everything got wild, and all the other monsters started charging straight toward Yang Young-yun. Right when everything was falling apart, Kim Dae-ok-kyun showed up and blasted a monster with a red beam, saving the students just in time. The whole scene was chaos, but he handled it like it was nothing. Kim Dae-ok-kyun turned to check on the student he just saved, making sure she was all right. Yang Young-yun looked at him and let him know she was okay, clearly grateful he stepped in when she needed help. As the fight kept going, Kim Dae-ok-kyun locked his eyes on the barrier. He picked up on something weird. The energy wasn't moving the way it should. The mage made it look like he was lifting the barrier, but Dae-ok-kyun caught on that he was actually messing with it from both inside and out at the same time. Things got heated fast as Kim Dae-ok-kyun and Jonghyun-soo ended up right in the middle of a bunch of goblins teaming up to push them back. They were both locked in, fighting side by side, trying to hold their ground. Jonghyun-soo barely dodged the commander's swing. The commander, not even taking things seriously, playfully called him out and basically said if he was going to slack off like that, he might as well hand back his Special Forces badge. Jonghyun-soo flashed a confident grin, letting Yang Hyun know he had the Special Forces rep on lock. Meanwhile, Yang Hyun, who was really a mage in disguise, just watched with this unreadable stare, keeping his real thoughts to himself. The mage shot them a sly grin, clearly glad they had her back while she kept playing her part. Sun Wu grabbed Seo-jun and led him behind the exam building, way out of sight from everyone else. Seo-jun was pretty confused, trying to figure out why they ended up in such a random spot. Sun Wu, looking all serious, let him know that nobody was around back here, and this was where he was going to drop the barrier. Seo-jun didn't really get it and wondered what was going on at the front gate. Sun Wu just dropped some wild news on him. Turns out that support mage, Yang Young-yun, isn't who everyone thinks she is. She's actually a demon, and while everyone thought she was helping take down the barrier, she was really making it even stronger. Seo-jun couldn't believe what he just heard. He was ready to tell everyone right then, not wanting to wait even a second. But Sun Wu held him back, reminding him that right now, it was just a guess. No real proof, nothing solid to show anyone yet. Seo-jun pointed out that Sun-woo got picked for the special class because he could lift barriers, so it should be easy for him to show everyone. But Sun-woo just kept it real. He knew that with everything going wild, nobody was really going to believe him anyway. Sun-woo broke down his plan in a way that just made sense. He said that once he takes down the barrier, it's Seo-jun's job to run out and let everyone know what's up. He thought people would actually take it seriously if someone huge like Lee Seo-jun said it, instead of just some random student like him. Seo-jun caught on and nodded, then turned to Sun-woo, wanting to know if he could actually break through the barrier. Sun-woo didn't hesitate, he just said he'd give it a shot and started heading for the barrier while Seo-jun hung back, keeping an eye out. Sun-woo pressed his hands against the barrier and right away his interloper benefits kicked in. The system started breaking down the barrier's complicated magic, making sense of it for him. Cracks started spreading across the huge barrier, and right then, Yang Hyun, the demoness, realized what was going down. She was stunned. The big demon barrier was actually breaking. The barrier exploded with a loud bang, pieces flying everywhere, and everyone instantly knew Sun-woo had pulled it off. Sun-woo just stared at his hands, barely reacting, acting like it was nothing big. Meanwhile, Seo-jun couldn't believe what he was seeing and just kept watching Sun-woo, totally surprised. Sun-woo wanted his teammate to get moving and handle the case, but Seo-jun held him back for a second to clear something up before they split. Seo-jun wondered out loud why Sun-woo was keeping his wins under wraps, thinking it'd actually help both of them if people knew how good he was. Sun-woo just smiled, looking chill about it, like he was cool with staying low-key and didn't really care about getting more attention. He then turned to Seo-jun and told him he wanted one last thing. He needed Seo-jun to keep everything that just went down between them, no leaks, no sharing, just their secret. Meanwhile, the demon boss was seriously losing it at Yang Hyun, roasting her for not being able to keep even one barrier up. He looked at her like she was totally useless. Yang Hyun, totally on edge, backed herself up and double-checked the lock like her life depended on it. She couldn't believe someone actually managed to break in, especially with her tired teacher right there beside her. Out of nowhere, the male and female teachers stepped up, and then Kim Dae-kwon rolled in with his Special Forces squad, basically making it clear they were in charge now. Kim Dae-ok-yeon charged forward, his long spear cutting straight through the monsters. He moved fast, barely slowing down as he broke their lines with pure power. Jung Eun-chul was wiping out goblins left and right, landing hits that showed he was on a whole other level in combat. While all that was happening, teacher Lee Hui-young let loose some serious lightning, dropping another squad of monsters without breaking a sweat. Teacher Jang Enkul noticed how sharp and on-point teacher Lee Hui-young's moves were. At the same time, she could tell his hits still packed the same punch she remembered, so she respected that too. A few minutes later, all the monsters were gone and the teachers were relieved. They thanked the Special Forces for showing up and handling everything so fast. The commander just nodded, acting super chill about it, saying it was no big deal for them. Jong Hyun-soo stood right in the center of the square, looking dead serious. He made it clear to everyone that the guy who set up this attack could be hiding out anywhere. Before doing anything else, he told the group they needed to get back together and start searching for the guy behind it all. Teacher Kim Yoon-jin stormed forward, saying she had no clue who was behind everything. Still, there was one person she just couldn't stop thinking about, someone who made her seriously question what was really going on. Yoon-jin snapped, grabbing Yang Hyun's collar hard. He looked seriously mad, staring her down like he needed answers right then, wanting to know what she actually did when she said she was breaking the barrier. Jung Eun-chul stepped in, hoping to chill Yoon-jin out, but she totally lost it, calling out Young Han and saying she might be a demon. Everyone was caught off guard since most people thought Yoon-jin was way over the top, especially because Young Han had just helped out with the barrier. Word started going around school, with both students and teachers calling out how harsh teacher Yoon-jin had been to someone just trying to help. People couldn't believe a teacher would act that rude. Commander Kim Dae-ok-yeon just stood there, watching everything play out with his deputy right next to him. His deputy looked over, kind of wondering if they should jump in, but Kim stayed cool and told him to wait for now. Yang Hyun saw an opening and took full advantage, acting smart and sneaky about it. She grinned, acting like she was being held back because she had to keep up with teacher Yoon-jin's weak skills. That just made the teacher even more furious. Out of nowhere, Lee Seo-jun jumped in and started talking to teacher Yoon-jin. He basically backed her up, saying that every time they tried to mess with the barrier, it just got tougher and locked down even harder. Everyone in the room whipped their heads around to look at Seo-jun, confused about why he just showed up since everyone knew he was supposed to be taking the third-year exams somewhere else. Teacher Yoon-jin leaned in, really wanting to know how Seo-jun figured it out. Seo-jun didn't mess around. He straight up explained he could tell something was off with the barrier and the way it was working. Right then, Seo-jun thought back to how Kim Sun-woo asked him to keep things quiet. He didn't like having to cover it up, but he told everyone he just knew the basics about how magical barriers worked. That was his way of playing it cool. After Seo Jun shared what he saw, everyone in the room started second-guessing themselves. The students couldn't help but whisper, wondering who Young Hyun really was. Somebody even said they should look up if there was actually an A-rank support mage with that name. One of the staff whipped out his phone to check, and when he saw the screen, his face totally changed. Young Yun noticed right away that everyone had caught on to her. She quietly cursed under her breath and started reaching out to her master, Cheon-hee, trying to figure out the next move. Cheon-hee answered her with zero emotion, basically telling her to just handle it. At the same time, everyone could sense this dark, scary vibe coming off him, showing everyone who he really was. Special Forces Commander Kim Dae-kyun clocked right away that this guy was the demon boss. Without wasting a second, he called his squad to move in and went straight for the guy himself, driving his spear in with serious force. Cheon-hee slipped out of sight just in time, using the shadows to stay hidden and dodge the attack. The Special Forces deputy locked in on what was happening and finally got that they were up against an A-rank demon. He started to get uneasy. It was clear stuff was starting to spiral way past what anyone expected. At the same time, Yang Yun started to see the mission slipping away, so she switched gears and went straight to Plan B. Her eyes locked onto Lee Seo-jun, and you could tell she was ready to do whatever it took. Out of nowhere, Yang Hyun's body blew up into this massive, ripped monster. Right after, some people around him started turning into straight-up demons and went wild, just attacking students with zero chill. The whole place turned into a mess. People were freaking out, running everywhere, and screams were echoing all over. The demoness locked in, pushing all her rage into one last attack. She was set on taking out as many humans as she could before going down, so she charged forward, her fist ready to smash anything in her way, especially Lee Seo-jun, who was right in front of her. Right as her punch was about to land, a sword flashed through the air out of nowhere. The blade was so quick and clean that blood sprayed everywhere, and the demoness's head and body got sliced apart in one crazy move. Lee Seo-jun stood over the demoness's body, his sword still dripping with blood. He looked down at the monster, not holding back his attitude. Even now, it was clear she'd seriously messed up picking a fight here. After the fight finally slowed down, the arena was covered with demon and monster bodies everywhere. Teachers and students just stood around trying to catch their breath, still processing everything that just went down. Lee Seo-jun gave a quick nod to Special Forces Commander Kim Dae-kyun, showing some respect for all the help. The commander nodded back, kind of surprised it had already been a whole year since they last ran into each other at the chairman's house. The commander gave Seo-jun props, saying he could see him becoming a top-tier mage one day. He told Seo-jun to swing by later to pick up his reward for taking down those demons. Seo-jun just nodded, a little confused but grateful, not really sure what to say. Deep down, Seo-jun glanced over where Kim Sun-woo had just walked off. While everyone else seemed clueless, he finally got it. Sun-woo was the real one who stepped up and saved him when it mattered most. If anyone deserved respect and a real thank you, it was definitely Sun-woo. Out of nowhere, Sun-woo just sprinted off as fast as he could, swearing under his breath like he just realized he forgot something major. Sun-woo spotted this huge fireball blast go off close by, and his eyes went wide. He was frozen, totally freaked out. With the fire going wild all around, Yu-A-ra just stood there, flames basically wrapping around her. That's when Sun-woo finally caught on. She's actually the one the demons have been hunting for, the kid from the prophecy. Jinsen stood in front of her, staring her down with this icy look. He let Yu-A-ra, a second year at Magic Academy, ranked number 2, know that she was letting him down. It was clear things were about to get intense between them. The demon stood in front of Yu-A-ra, wearing that annoying smirk, not taking her seriously at all. He was basically thinking there was no way this so-called genius, who was supposed to be on Lee Seo-jun's level, could bring anything better than this. He kept pushing her buttons, hinting that she was holding back because someone was slowing her down. He glanced over at Ha-young, who looked scared out of his mind behind her. Meanwhile, she just stared at him, caught off guard and clearly anxious about what he'd do next. The story jumps back for a second. Yu-A-ra was just hanging out, training with her friend, everything super chill. Out of nowhere, this demon showed up, not even alone. He rolled up with a squad of goblins and kicked off a sneak attack. Ha-young jumped in to back up Yu-A-ra, turning on her magic and showing she was ready to throw hands with her, not just stand there and watch. Yu-A-ra cut her off, not letting her get in the way. She told her to just go, while she started charging up this massive fireball in her hands. Yu-A-ra went all in, dropping a wild wave of fire that covered everything. She looked determined to take on this enemy solo, not letting anyone else step in. The demon barely had to try to dodge her attack, moving so fast he was suddenly right in front of her. He just stood there, basically clowning her for how weak her move was. Right then, he figured out she wasn't the one he was after. The demon grabbed Yu-A-ra by the neck and lifted her up like it was nothing. He could tell her blood had some serious magic in it, but he knew there was no way she could fight back against him. Yu-A-ra started gasping for air, slowly fading out as his grip tightened. He couldn't catch his breath, everything going blurry while the pressure just wouldn't let up. Out of nowhere, these sharp magic shards shot straight at the demon, so he had to throw up his arm to block them. Ha Young stepped up first, even though she was clearly nervous. She stood her ground, telling the guy to back off from Yue Ra and making it clear she was the one he had to deal with now. The demon just tossed Yue Ra to the ground like he didn't care at all, totally unfazed by the whole heartwarming friendship moment happening in front of him. He stepped up to the girl, his hand pulling in some serious dark energy. In his head, he couldn't help but look down on her, thinking there's no way she could do anything at her level. She knew right away there was no way she could beat this monster. She stood her ground, yelling out with everything she had, refusing to ditch her friend. She started blasting her ice magic, giving it everything, not holding back at all. She landed a solid hit on the demon, leaving a serious gash. Pain shot through him and he just yelled out. The demon realized his injuries weren't getting better this time, which threw him off hard. He could tell the power she just used was on a whole different level, and it left him stunned. Ha Young stared at her hands, confused about why her magic wasn't turning into ice. As she tried to figure it out, she noticed her energy was dropping way faster than usual. Before she knew it, she collapsed, totally wiped out. The demon grinned, his eyes getting all fired up when he figured out what was really going on. He knew he'd finally tracked down his target, the kid everyone was talking about, the one who could wipe out demons for good. He reached out his shadowy hand toward Ha Young, who was still on the ground, ready to end her right then and there, no hesitation. Just as his hand was about to reach her, someone stepped in with a serious vibe. Kim Sun-woo showed up right on time, blocking the demon and making it clear that the girl, the one from the prophecy, was way too important to lose. Sun-woo tapped into his Heart of Great Nature trait, and this solid blue aura started glowing all around him. He looked super confident, basically letting the demon know straight up that he was the only one not making it out of here.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Webtoon Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.